Hey everybody, welcome back to another one of my OWL analysis videos where I go over one of the better games of the last weekend. And boy, do we have a cracker from last weekend. It was the one I was most excited for coming into the weekend. And the game, it certainly did deliver. That's right, it was the Dallas Fuel versus the Los Angeles Gladiators. Yes, this game was a mouth-watering prospect. The Dallas Fuel, who were arguably the best team from the Atlantic region last year. They came third overall, just losing out on reaching the grand final to the Atlanta Reign. But they had such a strong squad, a great tank line of Fearless and Hanbin. They had the DPS of Sparkle, like that great new up-and-coming projectile talent. Doha, again, very strong DPS player. And Fielder on the support. And they've added to this Edison for hit scan and Chio, who's been playing the main support. But there have been some questions over the Dallas Fuel at the start of this season. They were completely whitewashed by the Houston Outlaws in a game that I don't think anyone expected them to lose, and especially by that scoreline. And they were going against the LA Gladiators, the team that were almost always always the bridesmaids, never the bride. But last season they won their first tournament success. And they've come into this season with some big name signings. They've added Arms, an unbelievable sniper, hit scan talent. Widely regarded as the best sniper in the league, the best Widowmaker in the league. They've added Funny Astro, Britain's own best support on the main support. He's crazy on Lucio, winning a Lucio meta right now. They add Reiner to the team, and alongside that, they have players like Kevster, Patifan, who's, was a great up-and-coming talent in Overwatch, moved to Valorant, and has come back again. So he shows great skill across the board. And then you have players like Shu and Skewed who can cover the flex rolls. They seem to just have all bases covered, and they are many people's favourites for being one of the top spots in the Atlantic division, if not the top spot overall. Let's see how these teams matched up as we go into Game 1. This season, the Overwatch League had tried a different rotation going into Game 1. It'd always classically been Control first, and then you move the hybrid maps and the player maps around. This time they decided to run with their new game mode, Push first. So the first map these teams went into was Colosseo. So as we look into the two lineups, as we let the game start rolling forwards, we have, honestly, the expected teams probably going into Colosseo. Dallas Fuel last week were always running Edison and Sparkle, I believe. Edison for the hit scan characters, Sparkle does projectile. This time they ran Hanbin on the his off-tank role, because remember, again, Overwatch 2's 5v5 now. You cannot run that great combo of Hanbin and Fearless anymore. It's one or the other one. A lot of teams on Colosseo so far have been running the Winston comp, so I was somewhat surprised to see Hanbin out there. However, there are three metas coming from basically the first week into the second week that seem to be present at OWL. One of them is this Winston dive comp where you run Winston with Soldier, and then either Tracy or Genji, and then you have a Lucio and a backline. The second one is a Zarya-based comp, which might suit Hanbin, being, Zarya was the off-tank hero for the entirety of the Overwatch 1's lifespan. And with the Zarya, you run a Reaper, a Lucio, an Ana, and then it's plus another hero. It's very varied depending on what this other hero is. Some teams have run Genji, some have run Soldier, some have run Tracer. I think some teams have run Sombra as well into it. It seems a bit more flexible, but the basic of that comp is if you TP a Reaper into your backline and put a bubble on him, how do you deal with it? And that is currently the answer to the question that teams are struggling to find. And then the third one is really just the London special, where you run a Rhine Rush comp with the Mei, with a Soldier, and you run Lucio Bap instead. There are then some map-specific ones, you've seen break in other situations where there's insane high ground on sniper maps like Gibraltar and Circuit Royale, and you've seen Widow occasionally. But this team with Hanbin in it suggests they're going to be running probably the Zarya comp. Or maybe Hanbin's going to break out, his Doomfist. On the side of the LA Gladiators, you have Kevster and Anne, so you're expecting some hit scan. Kevster is honestly a jack of all trades and a master of all of them. He's incredibly lucky. Reiner is a main tank specialist, so you'd expect him to come out on the Winston, but he's locking in right now the Doomfist. And then you have Shu on Ana, which is one of Shu's comfort picks. And Funny Astro on the Lucio, again, his comfort pick. Immediately, I flip back to the Dallas Fuel again to see what they actually roll out with, because the door's now open, no one's messing around with the comps anymore, and Dallas Fuel indeed run out on this Zarya-based comp, so they're going to be bubbling Edison. Edison will teleport to the back line, and it's really going to be up to Funny Astro to protect Shu from the dive. He's going to be like booping the Reaper away when he can, and then speeding Shu away. Other than that, there's not a lot else you can do right now. Like, you'll have to try and save a nade, maybe to be defensive. When the bubble goes down, sleep the Reaper. They're your strats. But easily Sparkle, Genji being his, like, trademark hero. If the Edison lowers someone's health on the Reaper, Sparkle can just dash in and finish them off. So it's really aggressive. And then once Hanbin gets charged, because, you know, Edison is guaranteed to be getting the Zarya charge. Like, if he's in your backline, you're going to have to shoot him at some point. You have to deal with him. Then Hanbin becomes the third DPS, and this gives you 3 incredible nano targets for Fielder. You can either nano the Reaper for, like, the Beyblade meta. You can nano the Blade, which is a very good team fight winning ultimate, really only counted by the beat. Or you can nano the Zarya. That builds up a Grav fast, and Grav is another fight winning ultimate. So this comp is kind of scary, honestly, and not a lot of teams have found solutions to it, honestly. On the LA Glad side of things, we're running this almost dive type comp, but instead of the Winston, Reiner goes out on the Doomfist, which a lot of teams have ran into this first section of Colosseo, where it's quite enclosed. There's not a lot of great dive areas, but there's a lot of walls that the Doomfist can punch people into. Immediately, the teams go towards the cart. We have the Reaper hiding in the shadows right now, preparing to TP. Probably looking for positions where Shu is right now. So, by now they're aware, you know, they're running the Reaper comp. Ryan is sitting quite far back. Astro's wall riding, preparing for the dive. Kester's on this other little flank. But look how closed this space is. It's just completely enclosed. It's kind of, like, horrible to fight in. In theory, it's good for a rush. Edison TP's into the back line. Unfortunately, I can't see exactly who he's gone on to, but it looks like he's went onto Ryan based on the health. Shu does drop down a little bit. And immediately, they're peeling. Astro's coming back to help Shu. Reiner's coming back, but, and this is the problem with not having the Winston, how do you block an anti-nade? Fielder throws in a great anti, hits Astro, hits Reiner, they can't heal anymore. They're going to have to back off a little bit. And the Genjis, they're just throwing down shurikens down this corridor, building up the blade. But so far, they're just feeling themselves out a little bit. You know, they didn't go super aggressive on the nade. It's not quite like the dive comp where as soon as someone gets antied, the Winston is like diving on top of them and trying to murder them. It's a bit of a slower burn for the Dallas Fuels comp, you know. A nice little synonym for their name. The Zarya needs to build up the energy first before they can be a real threat. So until the Zarya gets to like high energy, they're pretty happy poking away, you know, just doing little bits of damage. LA Gladiators probably don't want this to go out that prolonged with the Doomfist. They probably want to just burst kill a hero. And Reiner engages in, tries to get up his like power fist. And Funny Astro kills Edison. So I presume again Edison TPs into the backline. I'm not sure, again on the bubble timings, because I don't have the replay viewer. It's not in the Overwatch 2 beta. And actually by the time I'm recording this, the beta is now down. So there's no way to view this. But I saw Hanbin bubble himself. So I don't know if he tried to put a bubble into Edison. And there was a bit of miscoordination. Like Astro maybe booped them into one of these corridors on the left side. And he got, like, isolated from his team. Like, you can see the Genji and the Lucio on the flank here, Chio and Sparkle. I presume he got isolated and just killed. And that's now Dallas Fuel's main threat gone. That's a huge chunk of their DPS, a huge chunk of what gives Hanbin the energy, is off the table. So now Dallas can push a little bit more aggressively. They know that they can leave Shu a bit more free, they can leave him alone. And Dallas Fuel are just like, we're going to back. Like, you can push the cart a bit, or Spawn is literally back here. Let Jeff walk. Because a lot of teams are not willing to fight beyond this area. In fact, I'll pause it again in a moment to say specifically where I want to be. Right. Get out the fancy pen. So now that push has been out for a while, and teams have had scrim time and game time on it, a pretty noticeable thing a lot of teams have been doing are pushing this robot into like this area here And then even if they can push it further, like the enemy team's not quite back ready for a fight, they disengage and come back into this enclosed area and just give up the robot. And I think the main reason for this is you don't want to fight the robot like here if you don't have to, because you have a huge defensive advantage. There's a high ground here. I mean, it's not great on this view, but there's a high ground behind us as well. High ground up here. Literally, they're just shooting down upon you. There's just no good hiding spaces. If you can get into this room, it's not awful, but you're still like in a tight enclosed space. So a lot of teams seem to push the robot into like this type of area, leave it, have another fight inside, and because the robot pushes faster back when he's not pushing this barricade, because remember the barricade will be left here, it gives them time to try and get a fight win, push the robot through this area, maybe under the bridge, and that's a little bit more, you know, it's a little bit of an easier place to fight again if you want to fight. But again, most teams have just been slowly pushing this rectangular block more and more down here for each fight they win and just disengaging back around the corridor. And you'll see this, I think, from the LA Gladiators today. Again, Hanbin is pretty fearless at going forwards, and here's the first start. Fielder nanos the Zarya. This is 79 energy Zarya. That's pretty scary. I can't quite remember how the energy turns out for the DPS, the raw DPS numbers, but you're pumping out damage more than like probably the DPS characters are right now. Reiner hasn't got a great answer to this. Like, he can put up his power block and take less damage, but he's pretty squishy. He also can't just go in on the Zarya and, like, you know, punch her around when she has the bubbles, because that's just going to charge up even more. So Reiner puts up his power block and gets melted through the power block. I just want to roll this back again just to see what his health was as this starts. So Hanbin bubbles himself. Reiner is full HP right now. He punches Hanbin back to try and create a gap. And he power blocks here. So he's at, like, let's say 33% health. And they burn him through it. 90% damage reduction, they burn through like 170 health. Just like this. It's crazy how fast burst damage occurs at the owl level. Especially with like these heroes. When you get one single target focus, you can burn people down. And Doomfist is very susceptible. When like he's not got his cooldowns anymore, you can just melt that hero so easily. He hasn't quite got the survivability that Winston has, where he can, like, you know, sit in his bubble and, you know, dance through the bubble. He is literally just putting his body on the line. Anyway, with Reiner gone now, the squishy backline is now open for abuse. They don't go super aggressive on top of this, because again, remember, you have Shu with the anti, Shu with the sleep. You have to respect it. Soldier in this patch puts out an insane amount of damage. They're close to the beat as well, so they could beat, re-engage, but they're like, okay, LA Gladiators, we've lost our time, we're going to just disengage. And again, they will probably look to have a fight slightly earlier. They pop the nano visor, Hanbin has no bubbles left, they probably looked for the bubble timings. Hanbin was too far forwards, gets melted by ANS. And Chio hasn't quite got the beat yet. Astro goes insane here. Just gets a casual 3k. 4k. This, immediately when I was watching this game, was like, okay, Funny Astro, he's going to be in Player of the Week. This guy is far too talented. In my opinion, possibly the best Lucio in the league. Some might disagree, but he's definitely one of the top 3. Anyway, as I said, they fight early. They stop Dallas at 11 meters, and now they're going to push Jeff all the way back to their marker before the Dallas field can reset. Astro is going to get a speed boost back for ANS. And then my stuff goes to Potato. Quality, go back to 1080, please. Don't know why you went to 450. Now, I have to admit, before recording this, I'm sorry if this gets, like, very stop-starty, because my internet has been having some little hiccups today. So, I'm beginning to wonder if this is one of those hiccups. So, I might pause for a moment until I get the recording back. So, one moment. Okay, so I'm hoping we're back. My internet is still having a little bit of an issue, but let's see if we can get through this first map. So, Astro speed boosts ANS back. Reiner's just casually pushing the cart. And look, they're just going to get a small bit of room and back off back into this corridor again. They don't want to fight in this death box. They want to fight here. They push out, they see that Edison's on the flank. Edison gets punched into a wall. That's the go button for the LA Gladiators. If they remove Edison again, Fuel has to disengage, basically. He gets the bubbles for safety. Sparkle pulls out the blade, and Astro counters with Sound Barrier. To counter this, Kevster then also pulls out his blade, and Chio counters with the Sound Barrier again. So basically, they trade equal ults. But Kevster gets antied and is low. Like, focused very hard. I don't think he gets the Sound Barrier, in fact. We can slow this down. We have the technology. Yeah, so Astro is beat. He's missed Reiner as well. So you can just see Astro here, I think. Even with the slightly awful quality right now. Astro, I think, is over here. So he doesn't quite get the beat through to Kevster, sadly. I don't know where Reiner is right now, but again, he doesn't get it. Dallas' turn. Edison's turned his view back to Kevster as soon as you hear the blades get pulled. And they are just going to focus him. So he's low and he's dead. But to trade this back, wherever, Hanbin was, he's been focused down. And he was about to get his grab. So this might be a targeted focus from LA Gladiators. They're like, we're not going to focus on Sparkle now. He's lost his blade. He's used it. We've countered it with beat. But Hanbin could win the fight with Grav. We have to kill Hanbin. So they focus Hanbin down. They've died. And this also now removes your synergy. You can't bubble Edison anymore. He can't get survivability. He's just screwed. Fielder dies to himself. I don't quite understand how. Oh no, Ans kills him. I should always go forward a little bit more. Ans removes Sparkle, removes Fielder. And Edison will drop fairly soon. He's just trying to get a pick on the support here so that, the LA Gladiators can't push as far forward. But they've retained all 5, so we expect to push Jeff pretty far here. And again, I quite like this aggression from the LA Gladiators. You see a lot of people in Quickplay just staying on Jeff and pushing him under the bridge. And has immediately come up here with Shu. And they're putting out the damage down this bridge. They're not going to let Dallas Fuel have this bridge again for free. You're going to have to fight through these guys. They're building up ult charge. They're building up nano again quickly. And they've just left Reiner on Jeff to push him. Because you don't want to go on the Doomfist, because he can get out very easily. He has a lot of survivability as well. And there's the Grav invested. They've waited on the top of this bridge. Too long, probably. But they don't really have a counter to this. I think they accept at this point that unless only a single person is grabbed, they're screwed. They hit both Shu and Ans. That's most of the DPS come from Gladiators. And the healing. So, that's fight loss. So they're just getting Jeff push distance. I didn't notice during all that as well. Kevster comes back on the Echo, not the Genji. So they've made a swap here. Sparkle is now on Tracer. Edison is on Soldier. So they've made a big drastic change to their team. They're no longer running the Reaper setup. And I'm not 100% certain what caused this. I don't know if they see that Kevster goes to the Echo. So they're like, okay, we have to run the Soldier now. And this is a little bit of a weakness of having the Reaper as your hit scan hero. Because Edison, if he wants to go into Soldier to match the Echo, because, Reaper Genji can't really interact that well with Echo, nor can Zarya. So just to stop Kevster from free farming, Edison has to switch off the Reaper onto the Soldier. Again, to spoil things coming forward, Sparkle will eventually switch onto the Reaper, which makes more sense with this Zarya comp. So I think they literally just rotate their heroes around. So Sparkle gets off Genji because he knows he's going to have to go into the Reaper. Edison gets into Soldier to counter Kevster's Echo. It's actually, again, pretty brutal because you've reset your ult charges again. Admittedly, Tracer gets their ult fast. They get back to the fight fast, so it might be worth it overall. And Tracer's still a pretty good bubble target. You bubble Tracer, they go into your backline. What are you going to do about it? And again, this brings about switches now for the LA Gladiators. Reiner's like, okay, we're not playing Doomfist anymore. We're going to go on to the Winston. And Kevs is like, nope, we're not playing Echo into Soldier. I'm going to go into the Tracer now. Which is pretty good for them, because I would say that I'd rate Kev's Tracer more than Sparkle's Tracer. I'd rate Ans's hit scan more than Edison. So in the matchup of the DPS, I think this is heavily favoured for LA Gladiators. It's really, do you get more value out of the Zarya versus the Winston? And I suspect into this comp, you'll get more value out of your Winston. So I think at this point the comp is better for the Gladiators than the Fuel. So Hanbin throws out a barrier there very early. I didn't see who he bubbled. I think he bubbled Edison. Yeah, he bubbles Edison, who isn't low, and immediately goes behind the pillar. Was he anted? Okay, he was slightly low. I'll maybe give them that. Okay, they do get chunked down actually pretty quickly. And then they bubble him. Okay, so I think they bubbled for survivability there, rather than energy. But Hanbin is now anted and doesn't have a bubble charge, I think. So here's the focus on Hanbin. Hanbin is low. And it gets nanoed. Almost for tempo. I presume they have decent energy yet, but not as good energy as you want for a Nano Zarya. Like 50% energy on the Nano, that's going to be pretty rough. Reiner is trying to get out, but I think he's going to pay for his life. He does. And then the Nano answers the counter to this. Arms is probably putting out more damage with the visor as well than Hanbin is. And I have to say again, I love Sky Internet. Well done. You've been working fantastically today for me. You definitely haven't, gone down like 3 or 4 times during the day. And I continue to do so now. Don't worry, folks. We're looking at replacing them fairly soon. So I'll pause again for a moment and try and fix this again. Okay, I turned off everything that doesn't need to be on. So hopefully this will help it a little bit. But we'll see. We might have to get through one map and record the rest another day. So apologies if this comes out very late in the week. Again, blame Sky. Big sleep on Ans there. They counter the Nano Visor with just a cooldown ability. Very, very good. Whereas Hanbin gets the full use out of his Nano. But still, he was pretty low charge to kill Ryan and to kill Ans. But to counter that, Ans, even though he was slept, he still kills Field at the end of his ultimate. Which is honestly probably the biggest pick you can ask. The 2 key picks, honestly, into this these comps, Ana is probably numero uno, El Presidente. But after that, you need your tank as well. Like, if they lose Hanbin, it's so bad. Or if, like, they lose Rhino for the Gladiators, it's so brutal. So, just taking that pick at the end is going to now switch the balance in favour of the Gladiators eventually. So, Fuel do clean up this fight, but they're not going to get as much progression as Gladiators had. They're going to have to disengage fairly soon because they have to go and pick up Fielder. So here you see, they push 29 meters and have to give it up again. Because they just don't have the sustain to continue the fight. Sparkle is looking for a counter pick here. He's got the Pulse Bomb. He's going to look for either someone like Ans or ideally Shu. Pulse Bomb Shu, kill them. And that will stall Gladiator as well. So they'll push Jeff back a little bit, but will not get it back to the barrier again. And Fuel can restart. So he's sneaking up. Sneaky, 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 sneaky. But Arms isn't really who he wants. That's who he wants. Astro makes a huge play. Boops. Sparkle sees that he's coming from the top. He misses the Pulse Bomb. And that keeps LA Gladiators in it. So Sparkle's lost his Pulse Bomb now. And LA Gladiators are going to heal back up again. As we look at the ult, so you're about to see Edison gets picked. So he just dies as I think he gets his visor. Chio tries to beat to save him, but doesn't quite, so they waste their beat basically for no reason. So this fight goes unbelievably well for the Gladiators. They retain their beat as well. I think Astro pops it, he pops it just for tempo. And they're going to win this fight. There's no chance the Fuel win this without Edison. Had they had the visor to, like, overlay after the beat, that would have been wonderful. I just want to see if we can see exactly where Edison is during this. Again, it's pretty hard without the replay viewer. I might also have to slow things down. Okay, maybe not 0.25. 0.5 will do for now. So this is Spark coming into the backline. So where are they? Is that... Holy moly. I think that's Arms right on the left. Like, how far forwards he goes here. This is crazy. So I think Arms is here. If I can see the outline properly. No, he's not. He's here, isn't it? I am so confused by the outlines right now. Is that the Winston? I think it is. I think this is Reiner. So Arms is back here. So I think they just dive on Edison, put a bubble on him, and then Shu is here so he can't shoot through the bubble. And Edison, rather than running this way, runs this way. So I think this is a bad call from Edison, but we can't see the full picture on this. Like, it might literally be like, I will die if I go this way, so he makes a chance goes this way. Chio's trying to peel from me, tries to beat him, but I guess the bubble stops the beat going to Edison as well. In fact, let's see how this plays out exactly. So Chio, I think Edison dies before the beat comes through. But because Chio's in the bubble, his beat only goes to... He actually gets 3 in the end, but he misses handbin with it. This is, honestly, you can look at this 2 ways. You can either say this was good play from Reiner, but I think it's kind of poor play from the Fuel, honestly, defensively, because the Winston bubble is always going to block this corridor. To have the Winston just jump on your soldier and basically just kill him, and then beat inside the bubble, and split your team with the bubble is a bit rough. They either have to, like, fully engage on it or fully disengage on the dive, I think. We could probably go out of 0.5 now, but Kester is just a menace. Like, look at this. The aim is crazy. He's hunting down El Presidente. Hanbin goes down, Reiner dies, but it doesn't really matter at this point. They've won the fight. Fielder misses asleep. And everyone's rushing forwards. You can see, like, Ans, Kester, Astro were all part of this dive, as well as Reiner. And then she's just shooting them from behind. But, as I said, they were in a massive advantage at this point, so... If you're ever in a massive advantage in Overwatch, like, you've got, like, a pick or 2, just run into them, honestly. Just int into them, because you'll probably kill them before they kill you. Astro gets another kill. Yeah, at this point, it's claiming that Astro has 7 final blows at this point, and I think he's, like, the lead in the lobby for final blows, which was kind of insane from your main support. Again, LA Gladiators, they don't bite off more than they can chew. They're in the lead right now for distance. We'll push Jeff back to here. You have to push him all the way back to our spawn again. And they'll slowly push the block a bit more. We're not going to go into this death box. We don't want to. We want to fight in here. So they just keep tapping him forwards. And they're happy to play around here. It's very safe for Shu. He can play behind like plenty of different pillars. Astro can just wall ride and again go around corners and stuff. Arns can do the same thing. It's very hard to attack into. Now, you might have noticed again there's a comp swap with the Dallas Fuel, as promised. Sparkle goes off the Tracer onto the Reaper. So we now have the Reaper Zarya combo again. And I'm certain that they would have swapped after that immediately had Sparkle died on the Tracer. But he lived, they've got a Pulse Bomb, so they kept with it. It's kind of hard to swap your comps again into this game mode push if you've been winning fights. So they just stuck with it. Edison breaks out the visor. Who's on him? Funny Astro. The killingest support in the game right now. No fear. Ryan is also on top of him because you can see the bubbles on top of him. They just isolate him, murder him. There's no beat for him anymore. They haven't built up the nano yet. They're just off the grav. Like, he just gets hard focused. Sparkle is just pushing, you know, Reiner out again, but really this is just donating ult charge to the support at this point. Kevster picks up Chio. He still has his Pulse Bomb. Arms uses his visor just to clean up. Because as I said, it's really brutal if you get picked. So Reiner gets picked right at the end here by Sparkle. And that's brutal because Reiner will not be back in time for the next fight if they wanted to fight the 5 near Dallas' spawn. They'll still get some push on Jeff. He'll make it back to the block. They'll push it a bit further. They'll probably try and push it now to the checkpoint. But look already. Where has he gone? Edison is back. He's pumping out damage. And you can see already. LA Gladiators, they're like, nope. They move it 3 meters maybe. And that's it. They just leave it. Because they value the life more than the distance right now. It'd be different, obviously, if it was overtime and they had to push beyond a certain distance. But, you know, while you're in the lead, do not throw away your life. Your life is the most valuable asset in this game. So, they go back, they meet up with Reiner again, and we're fighting in this corridor again. In theory, this corridor should favour the Dallas Fuel, and I think this is why they picked this comp. Because you have so many fights in this tight enclosed area, that I honestly think, like, Rush comps or this Zarya Reaper comp should be dominant, but they're focusing Edison at the moment, it seems like. Like, anytime Edison steps out a tiny bit, Reiner's on top of him, bubbling him. Kester and Arns are mowing him down. Astro's about to dive. And they just don't quite have the same thing. It's like, if LA Gladiators can survive one bubble cycle from the Zarya Reaper combo, they can then counter-engage, and there's not a lot Fuel can do about it. They just have to push Reiner back out again. So again, Kester looking for a Pulse Bomb. I think, yeah, he misses because Reiner primals him. I mean, he misses the damage as well because Reiner primals Fielder out of the Pulse Bomb anyway. He would have probably given him a big chunk of damage. Irrespective though, Fielder nanos Edison here. And Reiner is antied, and look how fast he loses 1,000 health. And now we're on the retreat for the LA Gladiators. They've invested Nano, they've invested... That's it, they invested Nano. They invested Pulse Bomb and Primal. Pulse Bomb is a pretty cheap ultimate to invest. I wouldn't lose too much sleep over that. But honestly, losing Nano in this meta is pretty big, honestly. So again, Edison just pew-pewing away. If you can get bad spawns for these people, that's the more you can push Jeff. Wonderful. And back to Jeff. No one's even pushing Jeff right now. That's how much they value the kills. They probably could have left the support there just to get a little bit more distance, but again, it doesn't really matter because they have to back off. They don't want to fight in the kill box. But with the Zarya, you can at least stay on this a little bit longer. You don't want to be diving the Zarya here, especially if she has a bubble and she's got, like, what? She's probably 80 or 90% charge right now. She will melt down a Winston or a Doomfist, as Reiner has now switched back to the Doomfist again. Just one moment. My cat has just thrown up. This video is very, very broken up right now. I'm back again. Don't worry. Bessie's alright. It's just a hairball mainly. And you know what? In 7 months or so that we've had her, that's the second time she's thrown up. That's okay. Cats, sometimes they're sick. Okay, so they're again trying to chase spawns. Edison goes so aggressive. I don't know if he didn't know that Arns was up here. And pays for it with his life. And now the LA Gladiators are all in. There's a big anti onto Fielder. Handbin bubbles Fielder, I think, to cleanse the anti, but now he hasn't got a bubble for himself. But he's living at the moment. They invest Grav. They have to counter with the beat. They don't want Shu to die. In Fuel's mind, they can still win this as long as they kill Shu. Shu drops here, but they've invested their Grav, their beat, their Visor. That's 3 huge ults. Nano is about to come online, but they do win this fight. In counter, LA Gladiators invest their Nano and their beat. And Arns cheekily pushes Jeff back a little bit further, so they can't push him as far. Now, if you're on the LA Gladiator team, you're going like, okay, we have to get back to the point quickly. We don't want to let them have the distance at this point. There's 17 seconds left. As long as they stop them before 59 and win the fight, they've won. So they save some ults. They still have the Visor. They still have the Pulse Bomb. Their worry is Nano Death Blossom right now because they have no real answer to it other than sleeping it. Edison picks up Astro very early. That looks great for the Fuel right now. Kevster sticks Edison. This is huge. That's a big part of the damage removed from the Fuel. But they still have the Reaper. And then Kevster picks the Reaper up as well. And now it's sit on Jeff. Do not let him move forwards. Focus Handbin. That's your 3 major sources of damage gone. And LA Gladiators win the first map. Very, very good. What would I say was the main thing there? Honestly, there was a bit of individual brilliance from Kevster, and I think a few times Edison just getting caught out a little bit, but he's a new addition to the team. Maybe there's a bit of a style or a communication issue on it. Like, I think one of the big ones I said was him getting separated from the Winston bubble, and then basically Delta splitting in 3 ways so Chio could not beat everyone. That cost them a fight that they could have otherwise won. Had they won that one, they might have beat the LA Gladiators here. So, very close map, to say the very least. So, after the first map, it's 1-0 to the LA Gladiators. And this takes us to our escort match. The dramatically different Gibraltar. So we enter map 2 of the LA Gladiators 1-0 up, and we go onto a map with incredible amounts of high ground, and as a response we've had some substitutions. Fearless is coming for Hanbin, which means you're expecting to see some Winston play, and similarly Funny Astro has dropped out and Skewed has come in, which means we're not going to see some Lucio. Typically on this map, teams have been running Anna Brick to try and deny the high ground space, and for a bit more survivability for any snipers that are being ran. And Arms, renowned for playing Widowmaker in this map, very good for the Widowmaker. The LA Gladiators set out into defense. They go into this little high ground like box area here. Very nice, very defendable. Nice place to hold. And Arms is going to play a variety of sightlines, and it's sightlines that the Fuel are going to have to respect. At this point, it looks like Edison is going to come out and try and match him on the Widowmaker, but you'll soon see that he swaps over to the Tracer and they go for a very aggressive dive instead. The Hanzo is just for scouting information, and immediately it's done. Sparkle goes back to the Genji. Edison tries one headshot and he's like, nope, I'm not going to match Arms. I'll come out and Tracer. So we have like this classical dive comp with like Tracer, Genji, Winston, Anna dive, plus the Brig, who's good against Tracer and good for Tracer. Like the Inspire proc in her armor is good against fighting a Tracer, but you can also put out a healing pack onto a Tracer, which gives them a huge advantage in a 1v1 with a flanker, because their health will steadily tick up over time. You may also be asking, you know, how did I know that they're going to make the switch, other than the fact that I already watched the game? I've already done the analysis for this section once, but I accidentally didn't record the right screen, so I didn't have any visuals, so I'm watching this again. Again, Arms is going to play a variety of sightlines here, and the Dallas Fuel are generally going to just respect it. They do not want to get their head blown off by Arms, so they're being very cautious. Like, for a second there, Edison pops his head out, nearly dies. There was a huge anti from Shu on Sparkle and Fearless, which takes a little bit of time off the clock. They couldn't really, you know, push in while they were, like, half health or lower and purpled. So they wait for the purple to dissipate. Reiner is holding the cart here right now. He can jump back up to the high ground. But Sparkle, he's on the flank. He's trying to hunt down Arms. He's going to put the pressure on the Widowmaker so his team can play the game. Fearless, he slept and somehow lives through this. Like, he's in the middle of the LA Gladiators team. He's slept, he's anted, but there's a bit of a miscoordination. He falls back into his bubble as well, which is very lucky, and he survives, which is a nice ult charge donation for the fielder. But equally, Reiner takes a big chunk of damage, so the Annas are going to have pretty quick nanos here. So Fielder is going to top up Fearless right now. And again, Arms is just free shooting away. Not sure where Sparkle's gone during this. Fearless, again, he comes out for a second. His headshot slept. Like, it's not fun to be a Winston here. Like, if you get onto this high ground, who the hell do you dive on? You can't dive over them because, like, the Widow's too far back. If you get onto this box, Shu is going to sleep you, going to anti you. And if they miss all that, Skew is going to beat you with the shield bash or whip shot you back down again. It's so hard to play Winston into this. But Fearless is probably one of the best Winstons in the league, if not the best. And Sparkle's a very good Genji, so I'm expecting big things from the Dallas Fuel dives. It should be a comp that is right up their alley. But again, right now Edison is just slowly pushing the cart forwards, which is a very good thing to do if you're a Tracer. Just keep that thing moving forwards. They get the nano earlier. They put it onto Sparkle. Sparkle is antied, and he goes on the supports aggressively. He's trying to kill Shu. But because he's antied, he can't get healed, and he drops low, so he has to back off. So they get very little value off their first nano, other than the ult charge. This is how you kill a slept Winston. Reiner is slept. Admittedly, he's also chunked down as well. And look at the burst damage there. Antied, dashed through, dead, before he even gets up. Shu tries to save him with a Bionade, hits Sparkle, so they're going to have to stop for a second. But this is really brutal for the LA Gladiators. They also nano Kevster in return. He's about to get his blade as well. I think he would pull it out if he could, but he gets killed. And now the LA Gladiators are in a big retreat mode. Skewed comes back in here to try and save Shu. Arms just, you know, grapple shots up to the high ground. And Skewed pays for this with his life. He does get Shu out though, so Shu does make it to the door, but he gets staggered with nearly a rally. Kind of brutal. So we're about to come to a 5v4 now. as LA Gladiators will fight this. 0.17 meters left, they contest it. Reiner jumps into the cart, he's about to get Primal. Kester has got the nano. Sorry, not the nano, the blade. Edison gets picked by Shu in a 1v1. He does this often, Edison, in this game. He goes for a pulse bomb play and dies during the pulse bomb without sticking it, which is pretty brutal. I'm not a huge fan right now of Edison's Tracer. I think Sparkle's Tracer is better on the field, but unfortunately, like, Sparkle has to play the Genji in this comp. But I'm also not fond of him running it into Kester. I think Kester's Tracer is better, so I'd be trying to get Edison off the Tracer in this match. Off the first two games. Kester does pull the blade, but literally as he pulls his blade, I'm just going to pull this back. Literally the second he pulls the blade out, Chio gets rally, so he pulls his blade out, Chio gets rally, and just rallies immediately. And this honestly saves the fuel from the fight back here. Because Skewed is about to get his rally up. If he picks Chio first, Skewed will rally, and this will then go into the Fuel's favour. Sorry, the Gladiators' favour. Instead, Kester perishes. But the LA Gladiators, they still want to fight this. They Primal Rage on the cart to survive a bit longer. Skewed does rally as well. And as a counter to this, Fuel go like, okay, we're going to invest ults to make sure we win this fight. We get to push the cart through the most annoying part of the second phase of Gibraltar. I said this a lot, that this area as you come through the doors is so hard to break back through. That it's so nice if you can win the fight here and push the cart through by getting the staggered spawns. Spoiler, Fuel will win this fight. They primal 3 people that are up into the corner. That is Skewed, Shu, and Reiner. Sparkle is going to blade into the corner, and they're just going to murder them. Fearless is slept, so he doesn't get full value out of it, but Chio is in there as well. There's just so much damage in a tight corner. Arms drops back down again to try and get a headshot, and he just gets his head taken off by Sparkle. And now they're going to chase Staggers. Skewed dies as well. And now the Fuel take the prime real estate. They want to be on top of the ship, denying the high ground to Arns' Widow. But as a response, Arns goes to Soldier. He's getting dived too hard. Widow's not as good in this section anyway, so he's coming back out on the Soldier. But they invested pretty heavily there, the Gladiators. They have Nano coming back up again, but they don't have Visor, they don't have Rally. They've lost Primal, they've lost Blade. On the counter side of things, Fuel are about to come up to their Nano first, but they also don't have any ults left either. But they're closer to all the rest of them than the Gladiators. Fielder gets his Nano. I don't quite see exactly what happens here. The observers don't really catch it. I presume that, based on the pings, that Shu and Skewed are on the low ground at the moment and come out a bit early. And it's the go button for the Fuel, and they just dive onto them. Like, you see Kester, I think, come out the stairs as well, or Ants come out the stairs. They get anted, and they just get murdered. They just catch them on, I think, a rotation coming back to the defense. And the cart is still moving, by the way. Chio didn't leave the cart during this. Fielder is picked, but he gets his Nano off. Fearless builds most of a Primal Rage. Like, it was 50% ult charge or something. And they push this through. The second point, the entirety of the second point, they use one ultimate. They invest Nano. That is wonderful value for the Dallas Fuel. The LA Gladiators still have their Nano, fortunately, so they are in an ult advantage right now, but compared to the other ultimates, they're behind. So if they lose this fight, you're going to be in bad news bears for the LA Gladiators. But on the positive side, they died so quickly they get the prime real estate. Reiner is going to hold this other high ground here. Arns is going to be on this high ground here. They're going to have a little crossfire, and this is going to be the kill box. You don't want to be on the cart through the kill box because you're going to get killed. Hence the name, the kill box. But right now, they've not pushed that far yet. Arns wants a little bit more damage. Reiner gets picked very early. So again, alarm bells for the LA Gladiators. You're down 1. You're down your main tank as well, so he's not going to be pushing the cart. Edison's trying to deny this high ground from Arns. Nearly gets his head taken off for it because he doesn't realize Arns has come on the flank. And he gives it up to him. Reiner gets nanoed. He goes aggressively into the back line. Unfortunately, splits the team up significantly. Fearless drops low, but he's just creating space right now. And look at how much they've caught back up in ult charge. Edison's also missed a pulse bomb during this. But Kester is nearly on pace now with Sparkle's blade. Arns has built like 74% of the visor. I can't remember he came into this fight with like 30%, so he's got 40% of Visor. Like, he just did insane damage here. And Reiner just drops back off. They go a bit more defensive again. Fearless pops his Primal. And I think doesn't do that much with it. He tries to split the team off. Reiner counter dives as he's got his Primal up as well now, thanks to the Nano Boost. He splits the supports off, so now you have your dive core of Winston, Tracer, Genji, separated from the supports. And Fearless, he's low. He gets no value off the Primal Rage. The team keep themselves up very well, and Fearless dies for it. Sparkle goes on to Shu. Great play from Skewed. Whip shops him away. He's 10 HP and is murdered by Shu as well. To counter this, Chio and Edison do get picked onto Kester and Reiner. But the spawn door for the Gladiators is here. So the trades favour the Gladiators right now. Arns also picks up Edison again. And the Gladiators stabilise. Both teams have big ult banks here. Huge pick again onto Fielder. Like, it just buys a little bit more time. They can't just regroup again immediately. They have to wait for his respawn again. Big anti and big, like, shots from Arms to clean up that kill. They're now approaching 4 ultimates. They're about to get their Blade online. They have the Rally to counter the Fuels Rally. They have Visor, which is so dangerous in this part of the map because it's a long sight line. Like, how does Edison get onto Arms? It's really difficult. And Reiner's got his Primal. The only thing you'd say is Sparkle has his Blade, so they have a Nano Blade. Edison comes back on the Soldier. This makes sense. His long sight lines, as they said, hard to get back in with Tracer. So he's gone to the Soldier, but he resets his ult charge again. So it's 3 ultimates to 4 ultimates. But you have to worry about the Nano Blade. Rally will not save you necessarily from a Nano Blade. You could easily burst through the damage. It's not like a beat where you get the sudden, instant, huge pool of overhealth. It just slowly ticks up over time. If it's a Bear Blade, you can like live through a slash and start to like, you know, knock people back and accumulate that health back over again. But the burst damage on Nano Blade is probably too much for Rally. But it's your best counter right now, other than just, you know, knocking them back. So Fuel can come into here. Fearless takes up this high ground here, preparing for a dive onto this high ground more safely. Drops off, just doing some little pokes. They're looking for the Nano Blade. Here goes Sparkle, Nano Blade. He pulls out the Nano Blade. As soon as he Nano Blade, Skewed is rallying. But Arms isn't with him yet. Arms takes the big chunk of the blade. Fuel must be aware at this point that he has Visor. They've decided to lock him down. He's a huge source of the damage of the Gladiators. Just kill him. He's dead. Skewed wants no part of this. He just goes back to the spawn with Rally. He's basically only rallying himself at this point. But while this is all going on, like, Sparkle picks up the biggest damage source on the Gladiators. He picks up the main healer of the team. The main source of healing, sorry, not the main healer. Reiner has gone in with Kevster on his blade, and they've picked up Edison as well. This is just on a Bear Blade. Chio rallies, but doesn't save Edison. Sparkle is antied as well during his blade. Doesn't quite pick up Skewed, and Skewed's health is coming back again. But as I said, half the team from the Fuel have been pushed all the way back here. Like, they pushed them so far back. Reiner's primaled as well just to stay alive. Kevster takes up this high ground again. They're trying to, like, you know, push them back. But despite these 2 picks on the Nano Blade and the Rally, they basically don't push the cart. It's a huge counter dive from the Gladiators that really saves them here. So by this point, already, Shu's back out again. Arms is back out, and they're counter-pushing them. Arms has got the Visor. They have no answer to this. They still got a bit of overhealth, but they're going to be corralled into this tiny little room without their supports, and they're going to get murdered. Okay, Chio was actually in there, but they're just getting dash resets. Again, trades favour the defense at this point. Doesn't matter they've lost Ryan. It doesn't matter they've lost Skewed. They're going to win this fight overall. Edison even picks up Shu, but this is now a 2v2. Arms decides to 1v1 Fielder. Fearless kills Kevster. I think it's like a 1v1 basically at this point. Okay, no, it's a 2v1. It's just Fearless versus the world. And they decide they don't want any part of this. They're backing out. But pretty good stabilization for the LA Gladiators. Bearing in mind that Fuel came into this with 3 minutes and an ult advantage. It's now down to 2 minutes, and they don't have the ult advantage necessarily anymore. But it's coming back in their favour. Shu has got the nano. Fielder will probably build up the nano in this fight. They're about to get primal, and Edison's about to get his first visor. And Chia will not get rally before they get nano visor. So Gladiator's going to have to make a big play here. They'll be fully aware that Fielder is going to get his nano. Fearless about to get his primal as well. They're just poking, I think, for the primal as well. They nano Fearless. They don't go for the nano visor. They're trying to isolate our Shu and kill him. They're aware he will have his nano. They'll be ult tracking this. Shu misses the sleep. They immediately primal. And Fearless doesn't get much off this primal. He knocks Skewed back into his spawn room, so can't kill him. They push Shu the other way, but he's immediately, I think he nades himself or something. But he's got the rally packs from Skewed, so he's not going to die that easily from this. Does he nade himself? Yeah, I think he's naded himself as well. I'm not entirely sure with the animations yet, but I think that plus health above him means he's got the nade health on himself. So that's so much healing. Fearless, as good as he is on Winston, realizes that I'm not going to kill Shu here. He backs off and tries to push Arns off the high ground. Knocks him down. And look at Arns just staying alive. He then receives the nano. And now you're in a world of hurt for the fuel. They've used nano and primal and not got any advantage right now. Fearless is just trying to, find his support, stay alive. Edison pops his visor in response. Sparkle drops down to less than 10 HP but kills Shu in the process. It's in the balance, but this visor from Edison pushes them over the edge. You don't quite get the rally up in time. Arns doesn't get as much value from the nano, just the bare nano, than Edison does off the visor. And they start to push this through finally. But Gladiators remove 2 minutes off the clock. Kevster is just trying to stall. Fairly close to his blade, but the fuel push it through. Pretty good offense for fuel. But better than it could have been for the Gladiators. Right, we go to the Gladiators attack side this time. Fuel stay on the same double dive comp that they ran at the start. They're on Edison on Tracer. And then have Sparkle Genji, Fearless Winston, Fielder Anna, and Chio on the brig. And they're going to try and hold this box as well, like the LA Gladiators do. Kevster starts on the Symmetra just to TP the supports to the opposite high ground. Because it's kind of awkward to get up here. I mean, you can walk through... I don't know what this room's actually called, but where the Mega is, there's some stairs to walk up. But you have to go through, a very open area. Instead, he's just going to TP them straight to that door, and they can play in this doorway instead. Which is very safe for them. He'll then switch to the Genji. Arms decides to stay on the Widow. And then you have matching supports and tanks for the Gladiators. But the big difference here between the comps is Edison on the Tracer... Arns on the Widow. It's going to be a question of can Edison or Sparkle get on Arns to force him out of the great sight angles. Spoiler, they don't really. Look at this already. Sparkle takes one shot from Arns. He's aware where he is, and look at the space they give up. They try and push away from this box. Fielder is so lucky here to live. He doesn't drop with the rest of his team. He doesn't back off. Look where Chio is playing right now. Chio's I'm not playing in the sight line. I'm playing behind this little blue box up here. Fielder is just on the open. I think he's trying to get a heal off onto maybe Edison or Fearless when he drops down. Isn't aware that Arms is here and is very lucky at this level to stay alive. And immediately he dips behind this box too. Kevster does kill Edison because Fielder can't heal him because of the angle that Arms has got on, the sight line. The supports and the fuel have to respect this, so they back off. They drop to server. Fearless is just getting headshot continuously. Kevster picks up Sparkle as well. This sightline has literally split the team off. The supports could not get near the DPS, and they back off through server. Are the Gladiators happy with this? Yes, obviously. But they're not satisfied. They're pushing them back. You're not having the server. They pressure them back towards their high ground. I love this aggression. This is what you have to do at this level. You build up ult charges and you put up pressure. You don't let them set up. So Kevster, again, he's just peppering them in this room. Look at his ult charge going up. He's at 49%. Sparkle's still at 38 and he got picked early. But Kevster is going to start picking up ult charge here. He's also going to pick up a pick if you're spoilt. Chio literally just gets shuriken down on this high ground. Fielder uses his nade to anti-Shu and doesn't have it for Chio. So that is a huge pick. You're now fighting a 5v4 without your brig. And Chio is missing out on all this ult charge. Like how far behind Chio is on the rally to skewed. And this still stems from the fact that the sight lane that Arns had, not even the pick, Arns didn't get a pick, just the sight line, the pressure that he exerted, pushed the fuel all the way back here, and then out of the bad positioning, they got picked again by another DPS. It's so deadly to play Widow on this map. It's so dangerous to like playing the sight lines. And they respect Arns. Like, he's renowned for playing Widowmaker. It's his main hero. If people ask you, and they've been watching Owl, who's the best Widowmaker in Owl? A lot of people will say Arns. Like, in the history of Owl. Kevster gets picked eventually, but again, his job is somewhat done. He's put so much pressure on the supports. Reiner jumps up there with him. Fuel no longer have the support. Sparkle gets killed by Arns to a melee, funnily enough, so I guess he pressured Arns in the backline and lost. It's just Edison and Fearless left, but there's nothing they can really do. They pick skewed, but it doesn't matter at this point. The numbers just favour Gladiators. They have to touch the point at some point. Edison dies touching. Fearless is truly Fearless. He primals in their backline. They lose the point, and Fearless is like, no. I refuse to put a death on the KDA now. Everyone can see the KDA on the match. I don't want to be one of those numbers. He pops his primal. I think he's trying to kill Shu. Arms kills Chio again, but Chio had bad spawn anyway. I think they did intend to fight this, hence why Chio was on the cart and Fearless primaled. But now it's just run away. Try not to get split spawned. But Fearless kindly donates 1000 HP ult charge to the LA Gladiators. Does kill Arns for the pleasure. But Arns literally spawns where he died. Fearless doesn't. So he's going all the way back again. And Gladiators are getting some nice free space here. But look at the fuel. Like, compared to the LA Gladiators, this is a bit of a different in style. They lost Fearless. LA Gladiators, if they lost Reiner, I think would have fully backed off back to their spawn. They would have given up that territory. Like they did on the attacking round. The Fuel don't do that. They play safe, but they're still inside shuttle. They're not giving the Gladiators this high ground. So Kevster pokes away inside this room. They're aware they're here. Reiner's also now poking into this room. Doesn't get much off the dash. Fearless is back at this point. Arns pops sight, so they know exactly where they are now. They're fighting in this room. Kevster gets chunked down by Sparkle. Very nice from Sparkle. And I mentioned Sparkle got picked earlier. He's caught Kevster in ult charge. Kevster is fully knocked back off. What we don't fully see in this, and we don't really get from the observer POV, Reiner gets nanoed into the shuttle. He's immediately slept, so they get no value off the nano. And what I think occurs here, you can see Skewed is... Let me just get the pen out. Skewed is here right now. He was on this walkway at one point. I think Shu pushes all the way up here to try and throw a nano and a nade. Throw a nade and shoot the nano even. Onto Reiner and try and nade everyone inside the shuttle. And then it would just be like, it'd be the cleanup crew. Instead what happens is that Reiner is slept. The fuel drop on their side. Notice that Shu is over here on his own. And they just hard dive Shu. Skewed, in fact, sorry, this is Shu, not Skewed. I think Skew drops from here to save Shu, but they both perish. It costs both of them their lives because they're so far forwards. And during all this, Arms is just pushing the cart. Maybe Kevster at this point because he's dropped back down again. Yeah, Arms has come back up here. Kevster was on the cart. And I said, you do not want to be held in this area. This is so brutal to be held at. It's 4 doorways. It's a very tight choke point. And you cannot access the high ground that the Fuel have. Like, Fielder and Chio can just play on that high ground. Sparkle can play up there. And Fearless will just play by the doors. You know, Tesla canning you away so you come through. And Edison will just be a nuisance for Arms. This was all thanks to the Fuel staying aggressive. Even down one player, their main tank. They held ground. Plus, you might say that the Gladiators went a bit too aggressive. Arms is insane. He hits a nice body shot there. Nearly dies for the aggression. But they're still respecting these sightlines. But it's so hard now for Arms. Like, he can't see the people in the shuttle to shoot them. Reiner uses Prime to get up there, kills Sparkle, gets immediately knocked down again by Chio. As I said, the boops are so brutal. And he just wants to knock people down. He knocks Fielder down into his team. You expect him to die. But Edison lands a pulse bomb to Shu. Fearless is counter-dived Arms. So at this point, you're on a 5v3. So Reiner has knocked them back into his team, but is there a team there to support them? Despite this all going down, Kester pulls the blade to try and get the kills. He kills both the supports, but as Fielder dies, he nanos Fearless, I think. And that's enough pressure that Kester has to go back. So the Gladiators invest Blade, they invest Primal, and they got nothing out of it. Arms also switches off Widow into Soldier, so they reset the ult there. And the Fuel basically uses Pulse Bomb Nano. That's a great trade for the defense. And they still hold position. Again, they lost both their supports, remember, pre-fight. And look where Fearless is holding. Look where Edison is. He's playing on this high ground. Sure, he can drop back to the Mega. Fearless can jump all the way back. But they don't give up the territory. They just keep it. They're staying aggressive. Like, you can see the supports running back up the stairs in the background. They're not back yet. And Fearless is going to donate a nice bit of ult charge back to Fielder. Again, on the high ground, Kester's trying to knock Sparkle off. Sparkle pulls his blade. Gets absolutely chunked down, and they just respect it. But as a counter to this, Skewed has rallied. So it wasn't completely wasted. He pulls out a bare blade, Skewed rallies. That's, you know, acceptable. Doesn't get a pick. But now they've corralled them all into this tiny room. Hey, look who has got a ult right now on the Dallas Fuel. It's Fearless. Also, Chio has decided to pop his rally as well. Later than Skew, so they're going to get more value off the rally than Skew did. Because it's going to last a little bit longer. Fearless is going to pop his Primal, and he's going to be a very angry monkey in a very tiny room. And they're going to squish the Gladiators. We're going to play a little bit of tiny Overwatch in here. But the only person that's having fun is Fearless. Puts so much pressure on the team, and goodbye, Gladiators. Go back to your spawn, please. They do use Rally, Blade, Primal. The Gladiators just use Rally, so it's not the worst loss for the Gladiators, but you're still eating more and more time off the clock. And this area is so hard to push through. If Edison sticks a Pulse Bomb here, like, it's going to save even more time for the team. So this is the look for now for Fuel. This is the priority. Pick someone. Arms or Shu, they will both do. In fact, anyone will probably do at this point. And they have to come through a tight choke. Remember. Edison goes for a Pulse Bomb. And I think I mentioned this at the start. He gets picked often when he goes for a Pulse Bomb. Arms just dominates him with presumably a melee right click. He misses the Pulse Bomb. Edison's dead. And that's now a huge source of your, like, harassment gone. Edison won't be on Shu or Skewed. You won't have to focus on them. They can focus on Fearless and Sparkle now. And equally, you don't have to peel for your backline as much now. So Reiner and Kester can go more aggressive. Fearless, I think, makes a mistake here. He dives out. I think he tries to go onto this high ground. Because he's going low. Sparkle's low too. And he kind of lands on this box and just slides down. And Fearless, unfortunately, now ends up in the middle of the LA Gladiators team. Legitimately. He's in between all 5 players. And he's only 33% health. So Fearless is going to have a sad day. Fielder gets his nano and nearly turns this fight. Reiner kills Sparkle, who had dropped low. Kester is antied. Shu builds up his nano, so, like, they could fight this back a little bit, even though they're missing both DPS. Nano Winston is a lot of damage. He does pick up Kester. Unfortunately, Reiner is in your backline, and there's nothing they can do about it. Reiner kills Fielder as well. He's still not got Primal yet. He's built up his Primal. Doesn't need to use it. He kills Chio as well. He's legitimately killed Sparkle, Fielder, and Chio right now. And he hasn't used an ultimate. And he wasn't nanoed. Presumably Kester was helping him during all of this as well. But Kester died his point as well. So I don't know what the hell went on. But Reiner kind of pops here. And now Gladiators get through that annoying part. Fuel have to desperately come on. Fearless dies to the cart. Already he's half health even before he's got to the cart. Reiner immediately jumps up here, bubbles it off and primals. In the great debate from the Fuel, he thinks the team's coming up here and he's going to just push them all back, leave Fearless isolated, and that'll be his life gone, and they'll win the fight because of it. Unfortunately, he doesn't realise they've come lower the other 4 players, so he'll pop his primal, but he only gets debated for a second. He knows they're coming fairly low. He decides to knock Fearless out with his bubble instead, so this is Fearless' life, and he will just turn, and again, it's going to be an angry monkey in a small room. Oops, minimised it again. They pop Nanovisors as well. The Gladiators just want to win this fight. And they do. Fielder and Shield jump off the map. They don't want to get a bad spawn. And finally, the LA Gladiators have a bit of momentum. And they can take the territory. Arms gets onto the high ground. Edison now goes off Tracy. Goes onto Soldier as well to contest Arms. Also, Tracy's not incredible at this point. You can only really flank down... Well, I say that. The flanking routes are a bit rough on this point for a Tracer. You can come through here, back up the stairs, back round, but that's fairly long. And all Arms has to do is jump down here and, like, he's safe. You can also come all the way through here, back round again, and then up towards the cart. But again, this is a pretty long flank, and if you get slept, that's your ass dead. There's not a great, like, recovery point, but really they just need to contest Arms up here. They can't just let him free shoot. It's so brutal to have like a hit scan on that back balcony and you get pushed towards your spawn door. You just can't push back into it. It's as I said, it's brutal. So they have to have something that counters it. And they decide Edison will just shoot him. Edison is also a bit more safe from the dive. He can put down his healing station. He can also just run away. And remember, in this patch, Soldier does a lot more damage. So he can melt people. But again, Reiner is holding on to this high ground. He doesn't want the Fuel to walk up there and take it. And the cart is slowly pushing still. Fearless receives the primal. And by receives, he primals. Gets antied and has to back out. So again, Fuel used primal. And Gladiators just kept pushing the cart during this. He didn't really get much advantage from it. Reiner goes in aggressively. Skewed rallies. Kefs the blades, and just overwhelming the Fuel right now. That's Edison dead, that's a big source of the damage. Shu beats Sparkle. Sparkle had the blade, but he probably wouldn't have used it there anyway. And this is again more territory to push. And now Arms can take the forward high ground instead. There he goes off. And it's even more daunting to push back into now. Because you walk out your spawn and you can already see Arms just firing down on them. Fearless takes a chunk of damage. But Fuel has some good ultimates to counter here. They have Rally, they're about to get their Nano, and they have their Blade. Skewed has used his Rally, they don't really have an answer to Nano Blade. So here's the Rally. Fielder and Sparkle come out the other door, so that Fielder can build up his Nano quickly, and have a sightline for Sparkle. Whereas Chio comes out of this side, his Rally goes into Fearless, who's probably going to have to touch the cart, and it gives a little bit more to Edison, a bit more survivability. Reiner bubbles off this doorway anyway, so that Fielder can't heal as well. And if Fielder was through here, you'd have to walk through the bubble to heal people. But they kind of back off. They respect this, they back off. They're like, okay, you're rallying, that's fine. Edison picks Arms, and this is the major turning point of the map, honestly. You think now that Sparkle is just going to clear up the team. They Nano Fearless, they don't actually use the Nano Blade, they just Blade, Nano Fearless, and you think they're just going to clean up the kills. They've lost Arms. Sparkle just gets melted. Truly melted. Like, Kevster must do insane work here. Skewed hits him with the shield bash. And just the culmination of the damage is enough to kill him. So he gets no value from the blade. I'm surprised they don't Nano Sparkle here. They Nano Fearless instead. I presume it's so Fearless can build up his ult charge again for another primal. And try and cycle those primals and the blades. But it doesn't really work here. So Fearless goes in aggressively. He's like, I want to kill Shu here. But Shu has naded himself. He's got a pack from Skewed. And he nanos Kevster in response. And now they have a lot of damage. Fearless's nano is going to come off. And Gladiators, they're pushing back in. They lost Arms, but they're counter-diving back on. Kester had the nano, he was on Chio, he was on Fielder, putting a lot of pressure. Sparkle has come back on the Tracer. because he realizes this could be bad. And soon, Arns is back, and Arns is now free shooting. Sparkle's going to try and go on Arns, because again, if you're free shooting at the back line, he's just going to pump out so much damage. And really, the one last hope for the Fuel is to get Primal and to get Visor, and try and win it with the Visor. Arns is close to his Visor as well. Ryan is pushing the supports back into spawn. He Primals to split the team off. That's Brig dead. Sparkle dies to Whip Shot, so he dies on his attempt to kill Arns. Arns builds up his Visor, and crucially, Edison is picked. I presume Gladiators were focusing Edison down. They must have been aware that he had Visor. So now that Fearless is Prime Link, he's the only one basically on his team up. He's going to get shredded. Like, 1,000 health is not a lot when everyone's shooting you. And he's dead. And Gladiators push it through with one more additional second. It might not seem like a lot, but it means that the Fuel have to attack first on the next round, and the Gladiators will know what they need to do. So it's actually pretty important that they got that extra 1 second. It's pretty nice. I wouldn't say no to that 1 extra second. Plus, you can be saying, like, listen, we're better. We pushed it in a faster time. Okay, let's go to the second defense of the Gladiators. They're running the same stuff. It's Arms back on the Widowmaker again, Kester on the Genji, Reiner on the Winston, Shu on the Ana, and Skewed on the Brig. Spoilers, the Fuel will run the same comp as well as they started with. Edison will play the Tracer, Sparkle the Genji, Fearless the Winston, Fielder the Ana, and Chia will play the Brig. We just have a highlight here of Kester going insane, just cleaning up kills, dash reset after dash reset. Very lovely. We would like to watch the game, no Overwatch League, thank you. Yeah, Chia will swap to the Brig in a moment. And he's on the Brig. And we're going to have a very similar story to the first push. What are the Fuel scared of? They're scared of their head being blown off by Arms. So they're going to play very safe around the sight line. Immediately, Fearless gets headshot. He peeks around the corner for a second. And your brains are splattered against the wall. Fortunately, in the Overwatch world, you can heal that. So he gets topped back up again. There's a deep dive in Field. He gets antied. They're like, oh my god, if we can pick Fielder here, that's 30 seconds off the clock. It's huge. They don't. A nice peel from Chio, Fearless, Sparkle. I think everyone comes back to help him. But Reiner lives as well. He's donating his ult charge back to Shu. Similarly, Fielder is getting some more ult charge for the team damage they take. It's really a race to who gets their ultimates first. And now here's another pretty big moment coming up. Reiner again takes a huge chunk of damage here. You think they're going to get him? He just lives. Shu just keeps him alive. Like, some very critical shots there come in to stop him from getting killed by Sparkle's dash. I think he gets naded as well by Shu because Sparkle gets antied. It's a huge play from Shu here. And look at all that lovely health missing from Reiner. That's ult charge for Shu. But still, the Fuel, in a quicker time, have forced the Gladiators back to server. And they have a little bit more space now. Soon, Edison will start pushing the cart. No one's pushing it right now, but Edison is underneath. He's in a good position to push the cart. Fearless dives in, gets slept. Very nice again from Shu. I mentioned this on the recording that I lose. I think one of the big differences, especially for this meta for Overwatch 2, is how much the game revolves around your Anas. Like, a huge anti and then diving on the target is fight winning. A sleep onto the Winston so that you don't get value off like a Nano or a Primal is huge as well. And just like your Ana winning 1v1s with like Tracers or Genjis, like your Ana has arguably the most value in the team fights. And I think this proves to be the case for this map. Like, some of the individual plays from Shu are just like, they just turn it over the edge versus the ones Field to make. But these are two excellent Ana plays. Truly like creme de la Anas. Sparkle's trying to get on Arms. He doesn't want him to just like free, shoot people. Interesting freeze frame right now. Edison's still on the cart. Arms grapples forward. He's an aggressive son of a gun. And we're in overtime right now, by the way. So this is where you put all your cards on the table. And soon Gladiators are going to have a trump card. They're going to get their Nano first. Fielder is very close behind. Shu nanos Reiner. Reiner goes on the supports. And Edison dies, I think, purely accidentally. I don't even think Reiner sees him there. Like, he's still around the cart. Like, I'm looking at Brig, I'm looking at Brig, I'm looking at Brig, and then Edison blinks into Reiner and dies. So Edison dies. Chio dies as well. Kevs is on top of them. They're now trying to focus Fielder as well. He has Primal. To counter this, Fielder has nanoed Fearless. Because he's nanoed second, they've lost players already, so they don't have as much pressure. That being said, Skew dies, Arns dies. But remember, you have to touch the objective. Fielder can't get back in time. Fearless doesn't quite get his Primal in time. And can't get back to the point in time. And the Fuel push it a decent distance, but you would definitely want it to go round this first corner. There's a lot of teams that hold on Gibraltar, and a lot of teams fail to get to the first point on Gibraltar. There's a lot of 1-0 Gibraltars, but you would normally like it to go around the first corner if you're defending it. If literally this had moved forward like another, I don't know, 5 or 10 meters as it gets around that corner, you'd feel okay as a Dallas Fuel fan. Not fantastic, but okay, with a minute time bank. But now coming into this, especially with how well the Gladiators attacked first time, remember, they got held on second, not first. I would feel happy if I was a Gladiators fan. So again, we're going to run out on the same comps. Again, spoiler. Arns is going to play the Widowmaker, Kester will play the Genji, Reiner on the Winston, Shuana, Skewed, Brig. And Fuel will play this, again, classic dive. Edison will be on the Tracer, Sparkle the Genji. And really, the crux of this is going to be, can Edison harass Arns enough that Arns doesn't get any picks? Or at least can't play like a very aggressive sightline. Because they've only pushed the cart, they didn't push it around the corner, so Arns could stand by the stairs going up towards, like by the mini and up towards like the ball, I don't know what else to call it other than ball, and just see right towards the point, so they can literally like stay a huge distance and look almost into server. And they don't really have a big answer to that. Kevs is just going to TP the supports again across to the other side, just as an FYI. But again, there's going to be a bit of another race. It's who can get the trump card first, can Fielder build a nano faster, and can they lock down Arns a little bit? Because that's the major difference between the two teams. Edison's Tracer versus Arns Widow. Interesting, I didn't notice actually on the first time I watched this. They bring out the TP, but Fielder doesn't TP. He stays on this high ground. So I don't know if they tried to debate them a little bit, expecting like an early dive. Because sometimes teams play on this high ground here if they want to get 2 fights before this corner. So maybe they were trying to bait out some very early aggression and nothing happened, so they just didn't do anything. But again, Arms has gone around the outside, and now he's putting on a sightline up main. And they have to respect it. Again, look where the Fuel are going to be defending here. They've given up this high ground. Reiner can play on this high ground. The supports have already gone back towards server because they don't want to be in Arms' sightline. And the only person forward right now is Sparkle, and he has Deflect to try and get out again. He stands on top of Ball, and now look at the sightline. You can almost see the car, almost see into server. And the Fuel don't want to play in it. If one of them gets picked, that's it. The game is over. So they're trying to play very safe, very cautiously. Edison really needs to get around and get on Arms right now. And you can see him go under to do this. He's trying to find him. LA Gladiators just control all the high ground right now. Edison does kill Arms. He gets the first pick. There's 10 seconds left. This is going to be a 4v5 fight for the Fuel. And then they kind of beans it. I don't really know what happens here. Fearless is picked. And I've watched this back a few times now. In fact, let's go into slow motion as well. It looks like he dives onto this, like, bridge area. But he isn't slept, he isn't anted. He just gets chewed down. Like, he's in his bubble, he's pushing people in server. And watch his health just goes down. Doesn't get healed, and he dies. Like, I know Kester must have been throwing some shurikens in. I think he must step into server a little bit. And Skewed maybe boops him in more. And I don't know where Fielder's playing. I presume Fielder is in the server as well and can't get round to him. Like, they just don't quite have the sightline. Losing Fearless as a trade to Arms is pretty rough. Because if you get your nano up as Fielder, you'd want to put it on Fearless. And the easiest person to get the nano off is Fearless. So, let me just go back to the full speed now. This is the go button. Skewed kills Fielder. I presume he flanks through server and gets another kill. And it's just game over. No one can get to the cart. Reiner kills Edison. Everyone's just trying to stay on the cart, but you're pushing into bring Winston on the cart. It's not a fun fight. And that takes us to 2-0 Gladiators, and things are looking very rosy. As I mentioned, I think the small differences on the map were just tiny, like, individual plays between Fielder and Shu, and then especially on that last fight, Fearless. I also think Edison's Tracers looked a bit rough, and I would like, as the fuel, to try and get Edison off the Tracer pick. Just try and put him on something else, because he doesn't seem super comfortable on it. Like, Sparkle on the Genji seems fine. Edison on the Soldier seems okay as well. I think that's where they would try and aim towards. But anyway, let's see how the Fuel respond to going 2-0 down. As we head into the third map, which is Eichenwalde, things are looking great for the LA Gladiators. 2-0 up. Honestly, they're dominating the Fuel, but the Fuel are not that far behind. There's been some close fights. Can they start the reverse sweep here in the lovely region of Eichenwalde? Let's find out. We start Eichenwalde with the LA Gladiators in defense. The Dallas Fuel are going to set the time to beat. We've had some substitutions. Fearless has dropped back out for Hanbin, which again signals the intent of the Dallas Fuel to play this Zarya-based comp. And LA Gladiators, they've taken Skewed back out and put Fanny Astro back in again, which again suggests they're going to play the Lucio comp. They roll out on Echo Soldier. I think this is an immediate prediction that Hanbin will be playing the Zarya, not going to be playing the Winston. And as a bit of a counter to the Reaper, like, how does Reaper interact with Echo? Answer, they're going to struggle. Also, Kevster can just blow up people if, like, they go below 50% health with the... I can't remember what it's called, like, the Focusing Beam. Very dangerous character to go up against. Could easily just, like, Sticky Bomb, like, blow someone up with the combo. Sticky Bomb them, put a beam on them, and that's your ass dead. And Zarya hasn't got great ways to protect against that other than the bubbles, and she wants to use the bubbles on Reaper. Or, in this case as well, the Genji. So the Fuel run out, and they're playing the Reaper comp. We expected this, but they're playing it with a Genji as well. So this is two great targets for Hanbin to bubble. Again, we have the Ana Lucio from the Fuel. And as I said, Gladiators are still running this dive comp, but with the Echo this time, instead of like a Genji or a Tracer. Another nice thing about running Echo into Zarya is Zarya's a very good copy target for Echo. You get her bubbles immediately. You can bubble Ryan and play, like, you know, double bubble again. You could bubble, like, Arndt, you could bubble Shu for safety. And it's not too hard to make a Graviton surge up. And if you grab them, that's a fight-winning ultimate. So I think this is a pretty good answer from the LA Gladiators. Again, there are cross angles being set up around this pillar. We have Kevster on this left side, just, you know, pew-pewing into the choke. And is on the other side, probably with the supports as well behind him. And they're playing fairly cautiously right now. Reiner splits the team up and he's back out again. And here we go. This is the aggression now. Edison gets bubbled. And how do you deal with this? You can't. They just run away. The Gladiators are forced back. He hard engages on Reiner here, who's at the front. Which, honestly, they're pretty fine with. Kevster does pick up Sparkly, was antied in the build-up. Reiner is living on 1 HP. Like, the supports are turning to try and help Reiner. And now Kevster has got the freedom. Look, they have no way to interact with Kevster anymore. Genji, to some degree, can, like, interact with her. Anna can. But no one else. And literally, they just go like, okay, we're ignoring this hero. We just have to ignore it. So we expect Kevster to get a lot of ult charge here. They're desperately trying to get Shu, trying to get Reiner. We go into this closed room because, you know, the LA Gladiators want to heal Reiner up. But this is now where the Fuel want to play. They want to play in this closed area. They run in. Kevster can't get as much value because, like, he can't see them from the high ground. Reiner can't dive away. He's in a small room. Shu, small room. And, you know, an anti. And everything gets cleaned up. Really nice aggression from the Fuel. They didn't sit around and poke for too long. They got energy on Hanbin. As soon as he was energized and had a bubble, they pushed W and mouse 1. And they win the first fight. Kester's on surprisingly low ult charge considering he basically had a free fight for that point. And look at the ult charge on Fielder right now. Fielder is at 93% to his nano. Like, that's pretty crazy how fast he's built this up. Considering they didn't really look like they went that low on the fuel, other than Sparkle, who died. And again, you don't really want to fight in this castle area with a Reaper. This is just where he wants to roam. And Reiner is just backing off. Again, you see the teleport to the bubble, straight onto Shu. Shu can only run away at the moment. I don't know where Astro is in all this, because really their only counter is to run away. But you see the team all dive back to put pressure onto Edison. They're just going to try and blow this bubble up and then blow Edison up. There is a nade from Shu, a defensive nade, and they pop their nano visor and clean up. Fielder also uses nano. Who does it Fielder nano here? He's nanoed Sparkle to try and build up ult charge, but Sparkle just gets mown down by the supports. And this is really good for the LA Gladiators. They invest 2 ultimates. Fuel invest an ultimate, but they've stopped the cart. And they're still coming up to a decent bank of ultimates, including the Echo ultimate, which can be very big. The other weakness you'd say probably of this comp is like how it engages with high ground. Like the bubbling Edison up there, like he's pushing arms away right now. But only really Sparkle and Chio from the team can get up there to help him. Fielder can, like, you know, shoot from distance, but they're going to be pressured out by Shu on the opposing team. Kevster, Arns potentially if they weren't going on Arns right now. So Edison's kind of just like, you know, they give him a bubble and they're just like, go on, you do your thing. And like, look, he's not getting that much value. You don't want to be shooting from range as Reaper. He can't close the distance easily because Lucio's not with him to speed him. Like, this is difficult. Bubbled back up again, he gets chunked during the teleport. And boot back down again. But while this is happening, the cart has still been moving forwards. We get a copy here onto Reaper. Decent copy target as well. And now that is the fuel's disengage. They force an ult out. Edison Death Blossoms here. That's crazy. Again, I think this is a misplay from Edison. Where even is he when he Death Blossoms? I think he's not on the camera. Oh no, he's literally next to them. So I think what actually happens here, you can just see it through the blue mist. Let me just get my pen out again. I think Edison drops off the high ground from up here. He Death Blossoms in the center, and just to keep themselves alive, Kevster copies the Reaper because you get some iframes and then your health returns back to 200 upon copying a DPS, or whatever their health is. And then they just burn him down. So he gets no value off the Death Blossom. So they trade Death Blossom. Yep, there he goes. For the Echo Ultimate. Kev's is trying to rapidly get a Death Blossom himself. But looks like he's not going to be able to. He just gets it but doesn't use it. And then he is killed as a counter. So this will give the Fuel some territory again. Because they will have respawned by now. Edison will be back. The spawn door was literally where he died basically. So I'm not happy with this. Fuel go aggressive. Force out Beat. They trade Beat for Blade. That's not a bad trade. Because now what do you do versus the Zarya? Graviton Surge. They have no counter to it. So this is honestly a fine trade for the Fuel. They don't invest the Nano either. Just the Blade. Astro beats it. They're happy with that. Arguably though, I think... Let me just see how this goes. There is a case to be made here. I think Arns would have died onto this slash had he not been beat by Astro. But it's, do you really invest the beat here? I think this is what the Fuel were aiming for. They were trying to force out Astro's beat with just a bare blade. Then they can grab a Nano the Zarya or something, or Nano the Reaper to rebuild up another Death Blossom. But I feel like they had to invest it just to save Arns. And not get staggered. Reiner then primals as well to kill Sparkle. Fielder nanos Edison. And the sound barrier, so... And I think they grab it here as well. So they're just investing everything, the Fuel, into this fight. It looks like they're going to win it, but they still only got 2 picks for basically 4 ultimates. Sparkle comes back on the Soldier instead of the Genji. I think just to try and push this towards the end. Chio picks Astro, and now Shu is running for his life. Reiner switches over to the Doom because they intend to contest this, I believe. Can they make it in time? Yes. Reiner gets into the cart, power blocks, murdered. And Arms dies coming back, and they're just going to trickle into the point. And they're going to, again, chase spawns. You have to play aggressive. Shu gets bad spawn again. And now the Fuel are getting a little bit of momentum. And this is arguably the area of the map where the Fuel's comp is at its strongest. Closed corridors. Like, the Zarya can stay close by on the corner for safety. Sparkle can play up here and just play, you know, a little bit of a longer sightline and then move forwards onto this, like, little ledge over on the left side. Edison can TP onto the high ground. He can just TP straight onto the support with the bubbles. It's a really nice place for the Fuel's comp. Whereas Kevster can't get that high into the air anymore. Like, Edison can have more of an interaction with Kevster. So can Hanbin. But I think the main reason that Sparkle switches to the Soldier is to deal with Kevster. But if you look at the ultimates right now, you're fancying the LA Gladiators here. They have the Visor. They're close to nothing else, really. Edison's about to get Death Blossom. They're about to get Nano as well. But the Visor will probably be enough. If they can bait out the bubbles, they wait for some aggression, and very nice from the Fuel. The ult comes out, they have no answers, run away. Use both their bubbles. Sparkle nearly dies for it, but he lives. Hanbin uses his bubble to keep them alive. Edison gets a bubble as well. And Gladiators get no value out of the Nano, and now we're coming, out of the Visor. And we're about to get Nano Death Blossom. Nano Hanbin. Reiner is in the world of hurt now. Like, the 90% damage reduction will not help you into Nano Zarya. Astro gets kind of caught up on the edge there. Probably should have got out, but doesn't quite make it. Edison kills Kevster. Was Kevster slept there? No, Reiner was slept. Kevster just gets chunked down. Yeah, Reiner slept, and again they have a Graviton Surge, and this is over. This is a really fast push for the Fuel. They can grab a door if they want for safety. Not necessary. 3-minute time bank is the reverse sweep on. Okay, let's pull ourselves forwards to the LA Gladiator attack. Fuel run the same comp they end with. They stay on the Reaper Soldier. Like, that was such nice bait as well on the replay here. Like, the LA Gladiators go aggressive. As Hanbin gets low, nano him immediately. And then, you know, I'm not stuck in here with you, you're stuck in here with me. And he just goes through and zaps them all down. Right, take me back to the game, please, Owl. So yeah, they're running the same comp on the Fuel. LA Gladiators are going to run a very similar comp again, if not the same comp. Reiner right now is still in the Doomfist. They will switch off the Widowmaker to the Genji. So they're playing Genji instead of Echo this time. So you have this little, like, trio of heroes, it looks like. If a team rolls Genji, it seems like teams try to run Echo. If they run Echo, they'll run Soldier. And, like, you know, to complete the circle, if they're running Soldier, they'll run Genji. So this is what's gone on here. Kevster is now on the Genji. Because, honestly, Soldier hasn't got a lot of answers to the Blade. Right, LA Gladiators make a really bold move here and don't get punished. They fight inside this tiny little health pack room. Which you'd think would be the Gladiators Fuel's, like, you know, love place to play if they could do. Edison just gets focused down, I think. Like, he uses his bubble but can't quite get out. They go on him aggressively. The team tried to peel for him. Chio dies to Astro. Edison dies and Hanbin will then be picked off afterwards. So, the Fuel's positioning there, like, they're slightly further far forwards position. Inside this mini room. Is it like the computer bank? I can't remember what it's actually normally called. But it was punished. It was hard read by the Gladiators. They went aggressively in there. I don't think the Fuel expected the Doomfist, because Doomfist is also very good in a small room. And Edison swaps. He's like, I'm going on the Tracer now. Some interesting changes here. So again, arguably the Doomfist can't really interact very well with the Tracer. Tracer's pretty good onto the Soldier. You can just keep putting on pressure. They're still a great bubble target. Like, it's such harassment to bubble a Tracer in your backline. What do you do about it? There's not a lot. But they haven't got that same, like, immediate burst damage that the Reaper had. Hanbin gets arms. Very nice. Can he live? Look at all that health that he gained. Huge from Fielder and Chio. I think he got naded and amp healed. Astro dies as well, but his spawn is very close. Like, they're just focusing Hanbin so hard now. Rhino's really unlucky there. Like, if we watch this again. Doomfist ultimate, ladies and gentlemen, not the greatest ultimate in the world. He thinks he can get Fielder here. Fielder is on, like, half health. Lands on Fielder. Basically does nothing. Like, his health just immediately flies back up again. I think Fielder thinks he's going to die as well because he just nanos Hanbin immediately. But this will work. Reiner gets melted again. He was low anyway coming into it. Shu nanos, I think, Kester during all of this as well. So, like, traded nanos. And now Reiner's like, nope, don't want any more of this. Get me on the Winston, hero. We'll split off Fielder from the rest of his team. And then focus him down. Single target grab, they try to keep Astro alive, but can't. It doesn't really matter, your spawn door is here. However, there's still working time off the clock, which is very, very useful. Like, the Gladiators pushed this first point way quicker than the Fuel, but they're not going to push the second point as fast. And look at how aggressive they're chasing kills right now. They're going back to the first spawn. Kind of a questionable beat from Astro here, but they beat Blade basically on their first point, but this is Kevster picking up Sparkle and Chio. This will release the pressure now. And they'll be able to get out of the first spawn. Picks up a third. Astro kills Fielder. Excellent. They did kill the Zarya in all of this, which is wonderful for them because that resets her energy. And just before that switched again, Sparkle's now gone over to the Reaper, so they've swapped the heroes they were running, strangely. Which I don't know if it means that they're going to try and get Edison on the Soldier at some point. It might be, again, one of these fuel rotations of the DPS heroes. Oh no, it goes back. So Edison goes up to the Reaper again, and then Sparkle goes into the Soldier, so it's interesting that they roll it that way around. I guess Sparkle is not happy on the Reaper, although he did show it for a brief moment. But it was a little bit messy from the LA Gladiators at the moment. You don't seem to really know who they want to focus in this comp. The problem is if they go into the Ana and Hanwin still has a bubble, is that they'll just bubble Fielder. And like, you know, effectively the Ana then has another plus 200 health. And the team can just turn around and peel very quickly. You're just not going to kill them. It seems like the typical focus has been to try and isolate Hanbin after they've used the bubble. But you still have to deal with Edison. You have to respect the Reaper, like, in your team. And again, Reiner dives over them. Edison turns around and just starts using his double shotguns and just melts them down. Okay, looking at the ultimates right now, fairly similar in the ult banks. They both got a nano. Chio's doing probably better than Astro at this point in building up beats. He is 11% ahead, but they'll probably get that online very similarly. The big difference, I think, is Arms is 25% ahead to the Visor, so they're probably going to get the Visor online first. And they can nano Arms to try and get this Visor faster. They're also pretty close to a Primal Rage, could get nano Reiner, get a Primal. And there's this nice big open pit over the bridge. Try and knock those supports off. It doesn't matter if you have a 200 HP shield on you, if you're in the pit. But anyway, they're just trying to build some Primal. Nano Reaper, bubbled, TPs into the supports. And now he's going to have a bit of a problem because he's walked back out of his team. He's exited like the Wraith mode. And they just chase him down. So Fielder gets basically no value for the Nano. Somehow Astro died again, probably on the dive. But they're still up a player, I think. And here's the Primal on the bridge. Picks up 2. Very nice. But pays for it with his life. So I think it's only 2 up for the Gladiators right now. Astro will be back soon. They will definitely fight this. Sparkle switches over to Symmetra. This is a lovely swap. They're going to teleport the rest of their team that's respawning into this upper window and try and flood the 5 players back as quickly as possible. Edison waits for a little bit of time. You're about to see the teleporter come up very soon. But unfortunately, he must have been broken. I didn't actually see that. He went Symmetra. Yeah, the TP is there. LA Gladiators are wise to this and they break it instantaneously. So the team then has to run there. Sparkle goes to the Soldier. And the LA Gladiators, eventually their numbers win out on the day. Kevster dies to Grav. Like, the Fuel are trying to win this. They're trying to invest ults into this. And they're going to win. I tell a lie. I thought the Gladiators won on this fight. They don't. So the Graviton Surge, pushed them back. This was a pretty brutal fight for Fuel, though. They invested Grav. They basically reset their Soldier charge. They didn't get the Visor off in the end. But they started the fight, remember, with Nano Reaper. They're about to come back up to Nano again. Like, Fielder is almost a lapping shoe at this point for Nano. And Edison's about to get his Death Blossom. So they have got answers. Astra is still far off his beat. Reiner's now on the Doomfist, although he did use his Primal to begin with. The real question is, can the Fuel survive the 2 DPS ults? As long as Gladiators don't overlay them, it makes Chio decide which one do I beat. Is it the Blade or the Visor? And they're not waiting. Fuel are like, okay, we'll fight you in this tiny little room then. We know you have an advantage on the ults right now. We're going to go aggressively. They beat before Astro gets his beat. Death Blossom in. And win another fight. Arns does invest his Visor. Basically gets no value out of it. But the LA Gladiators are probably content with this. They invest 1 ultimate. Fuel invests 2, and it's a pretty big one. The beat is huge. And Gladiators are about to get their beat on the line. But I like this aggression from teams. When they know the enemy team's about to get an ult advantage, they don't just save their 2 ultimates or 3 ultimates to match their ultimates. They go aggressively early, try and win the fight as soon as possible, disrupt their setup. And even though now the LA Gladiators didn't use all their ultimates, they come back with the advantage. They burn more time off the clock, and really at the moment, the Fuel are just playing a game of burn the time off the clock. They have so much more time. They have 3 minutes 9. Their game right now, their objective is just to reduce the LA Gladiators' time. The cap out doesn't necessarily matter. They prefer, obviously, to not let them cap out and just win the map, but if they can get it down to 0, that's fine. Nano Reaper TPs into the backline with a bubble. And again, the Gladiators have to retreat. Defensive nade, Edison stays in, and they punish the Reaper. But not after Ans dies, and Edison, his spawn is way closer. So the spawns right now are favouring the defense, and again, the Fuel are going aggressive. Kevster switches up to the Tracer. He must have bladed it in all of that, but it's not enough. The Fuel hold them and win this map. So the reverse sweep is potentially on. That being said, this was probably one of the favourite maps for the Fuel if they were going to win one with this Reaper bubble comp. It's very good on the first and the third point, and they got decent value for it on the second point, honestly. I was kind of surprised. There were definitely some questionable decisions, I think, from the Gladiators, like Arms using the attack visor after Chio had beat it, and they were death bossing in a room. Seems kind of crazy. It's also a pitch from the Gladiators. They lost the map with both support ults up still. They still had Nano, they still had beat, so maybe a little bit of communication. Maybe it's just the Fuel going very aggressive, kind of knocked them out of their stride a little bit. Anyway, this takes us now to the map 4. So unusually, the 4th map takes us to Control, as the first map and the deciding map have decided to be pushed for this weekend. They're playing on the Control map Ilios, which has multiple different styles that could be used. The Reaper comp could work pretty nicely in the Cage of Well. It could work fairly nicely on Ruins on that the bridge type area. And it could also be used on Lighthouse, where the point is pretty enclosed inside the Lighthouse room. But the LA Gladiators seem like they're going to be running this Doom dive almost everywhere they go, and maybe occasionally switching towards a Winston dive. Let's see how the 4th map turns out. So there are no substitutions as we go into the 4th map, being Ilios. Hanbin is still in, so that again, this signals the intention of the Fuel to play this Zarya Reaper comp, and already Hanbin is showing the Zarya, Edison the Reaper. Sparkle's just going to TP for, time from the spawn to get there a bit faster, because it matters hugely who gets to the control point I say hugely. It matters a lot on control who gets to the point first, because then you can set up the position you want to defend on. LA Gladiators, again, look like they're going to run this Echo-based comp, with Kevster playing the Echo, and Arns playing the Soldier, and Reiner is currently showing Doom. We're playing well first on Ilios, and there are some closed spaces for the Doomfist, so it's not too bad. Again, as I mentioned in the build-up to this, you can play in this caged area, it's fairly closed, and already you can see people getting bubbled into position. Sparkle's on the Genji this time, not the Soldier, so that's another bubble target. Edison gets bubbled up here onto the flank. I think they're expecting the LA Gladiators to come around this right side instead of the more open side, but that's not where they come. And immediately, LA Gladiators start rotating. Arns is coming around, setting up crossfire lines. So you're going to have potentially people shooting from where Arns is now, like over here into the cage. You're going to have people over here shooting this way. And it's really how the Fuel going to close this gap. And the way they're going to close the gap is how they've been closing the gap the entire time. They're going to wait for Hanbin. They're going to wait for Hanbin to get a bubble. They're going to bubble Edison, and he's going to engage onto the back line. Or maybe even Arms. But it's probably going to be Shu that he's going to aim for. And as soon as that happens, the speed boost from Chio will happen. Hanbin will join up with him. Sparkle will dash in. And then Fielder will possibly be left on his own. Kind of depends what the counter dive from the Gladiators is to how this will actually play out. But it does seem like in this 5v5 meta at the moment, aggression seems to be king. If you can get on the enemy team first, you have a huge advantage. Sparkle immediately is picked. Edison TP's in, immediately has to go back to a pack. Gets antied, he has no bubble. Also, Arms kills himself, I guess, with a Helix rocket. And look at this, we're fighting in a closed area on this side now. Hanbin kills himself with presumably a right click. And despite the fact that Gladiators got the first pick, the Fuel are going to come out on top here. It's this transition, I think, which is so important about the Fuel's comp. If the Zarya, and it's now going to be a Tracer, but if like the Zarya, the Genji, and the Lucio can join in on the push as Edison like disrupts the Gladiators' backline, it's so much damage and it's so hard to deal with. Because by the time like Hanbin is back again, he might have a self bubble for himself, and then he can be the main tank. And this was a fairly clean fight. And not a lot of ult charge across the board either. Like, people just basically just died. There was no real poke there. They just went in and fought. And this is kind of, I guess, the counter that they're hoping for on the Gladiators. If Kevster can catch, like, Edison TPing or something like that and just blow up his bubble, the comp is way weaker. Again, kind of split targets who Kevster goes on here. He was fine briefly at, Hanbin. He was fine at Fielder. He went on Edison as well. And they eventually get Edison. This big sleep. But they trade Shu. Was this an anti-nade from Fielder? Nope, they just shoot him down. And that's not a trade that you would like. I mean, it's most of the DPS on the Fuel, but you would definitely want your main support. Sorry, I keep saying main support. You want your main healer. The main source of your heals in your team is definitely Shu. Gladiators still go aggressive, but Reiner drops. He has no way to restore health. Kevster trades Fielder. But again, it's too late. Kevster loses his life for it. And the Fuel are still up a player right now. And they retain the point. Sparkle somehow gets killed by Astro, who again starts going beast mode on this map. Just getting kills after kills. Huge beat from Chio, saves Hanbin. And they get Shu off the back of it. Very nice. Look at the difference between ult charge right now between Shu and Fielder. The Fuel really seem to have got on top of Shu this map and are just focusing down. Like, he is struggling so much right now on this map into this comp. They just can't keep him alive at the moment. And even though Reiner is now on the Doom, he's not helping anymore. I think part of the idea of bringing the Doom into this is to knock the Bubbled Reaper away from your supports. Or just have the movement to, like, get back and help your supports very quickly. Because, you can punch back or you can leap back. But he's just, like, it's getting caught betwixt and between, I think. Hans gets murdered by Sparkle, the nano handbin. Reiner trades Sparkle, that's huge. And then they kill Edison again. Another big sleep by Shu. And Gladiators invest Sound Barrier, and they're just going to try and win this. Echo Ult, Kevster gets Anna. This seems to be a fairly common for the Echo players right now. Copy the Anna and hit another anti. It's so big to get the anti. There's no Diva, as I said, to eat damage anymore. You get anti, that's your ass. And now, Fuel are just staggering the point a little bit, trying to get it to like 99. And they're going to get it to 94. Okay, 94 is fine. That's still in the territory. If the Fuel win a fight, they're probably going to win the map. On the positive side for the LA Gladiators, they still have the Nano from Shu. They didn't invest that. They have the Visor. Chiu had invested the beat at the start of the previous fight, so Nano Visor should be a fight win here. They just have to be careful of the Graviton Surge. And Reiner can also go in Giga aggressive if he really wants to, because he can Doom Ult out of it. Hanmin focuses down Reiner. Again, this feels like a bit of a disconnect. I feel like Kevster should be going in when Reiner goes in as well. The Fuel have forced Reiner to go all the way back to Shu for healing, and then Kevster comes in. They've also popped their Visor, but not Nano. Edison Death Blossom kills Arms. They still have this Nano. They tried to win it, I think, with just Visor, rather than guaranteeing it on the Nano Visor. Like, you have to... You're in the situation with the Gladiators right now. You have to win every fight till the end of the game. They didn't use Doom, they didn't use Nano. And Hanbin didn't invest Graviton Surge. They literally won with just the Reaper ult. And again, the Gladiators lose a map where they basically still had the Nano Boost and the Doom ult left. Like, it's not good enough. It's just like slight misplays from the LA Gladiators that are letting the Fuel back into this right now. Okay, let's get to the second point, which is Ruins. So again, the LA Gladiators have come out on the same comp. It's the Doom comp with Soldier Genji. Okay, I say the same, it's not. They're not running the Echo, they're running a Genji instead. Sparkle comes out and trades to Edison on the Reaper, which seems to suggest they don't expect the Echo here. And again, the Zarya Reaper comp is probably going to hold onto this left side, yet the closed area, where the Reaper can get most of his advantage. And if you're the Gladiators, you don't want to dive in there, really. And right now, Hanbin is just probably trying to get energy. And wait for the point to unlock. Here they go, the point's about to unlock, they move towards the point. They still have all the cooldowns for Hanbin. What do the Gladiators do? They don't want to be on the point, that's where the Reaper wants you to fight. They just have to wait. Big anti onto Reiner. And basically for free, it looks like the Fuel are going to get the point. But just before it flips, Gladiators do fight it. Arms finds his flank, kills Edison. They kill Fielder, then they get Chio. Very nice from the Gladiators. I think the Fuel just lost track of Arms. He got onto this walkway, melted down Edison, and in this comp, as I said, if you lose the Reaper, it's so brutal. Some tactical crouching from Reiner, and the Gladiators are in control first. And this is huge for the control point maps. In Overwatch 1, I think at our level, if you won the first point of control, you had like a very nice tech there. You have like a 60% chance to win the map, possibly even higher on certain ones. So it's really important to win this first fight. So, advantage Gladiators. Again, Reiner's doing some nice work. Straight onto Fielder. Fielder is low, but they can't punish. And Reiner is antied and can't quite get out. I think he lost his position a little bit there. He probably should have punched around by the Mega, but I think he is, you know, he was dead anyway, irrespective, because Sparkle would have chased him down. Tank is gone. Sparkle misses the Pulse Bomb. They trade for Fielder. Fielder nanos Edison, though, just before he dies, so there's a lot of damage, but they need to win this quickly. Kester picks up Hanbin as well. Edison loses some of his nano time because he has to Wraith Walk. But Gladiators still invest their own Nano Visor. So not all lost for the Fuel. They use Nano, they use Pulse Bomb, they lose the fight. It wasn't a huge investment for them. Both teams are about to get beat up at the same time. Chia will be looking to get beat before Kevster can Blade, which is going to be difficult if Gladiators go aggressively quickly. Like, I feel like on this comp, if you want to go as soon as possible, as soon as you see the Reaper get his bubble, I kind of would like Reiner and Kevster, and maybe even Astro, just go fully aggressive on Fielder. Like, Hanbin doesn't necessarily have another bubble right now. I'm not 100% certain on that. Maybe he does still have his second bubble. But if he has his second bubble, he has no energy right now. But they just need to get this bubble time to just all in on Fielder, because they just don't have that much protection for him after that. After Edison's gone out, Sparkle's going to be on part of the dive. Like, Chewy's literally just trying to keep Fielder up right now. But I feel like the Blade here, if they went quickly, especially when he's not got the beat, but maybe they think he already has it. Like, I think they win this fight and, you know, send them back to the spawn. Maybe the field don't invest in ult, but as I said, while the going's good, I think you invest ults and go aggressive. But no, that's Reiner back out again. Sparkle drops low. Fielder is antied, and this is the go button. Goes straight onto Chia because they think he's got the beat. So they want to kill him before beat. Fielder dies to Reiner anyway, and you win the fight with the Blade eventually. Astro is peeling back to his own spawn, kills Sparkle with the help of Arns. Also, hello Bessie, I see you've joined me in the office. And now we're in one fight territory. The Fuel have to win on this push. They have beat. They're probably going to get Grav. They're probably going to get Death Blossom. They'll probably get Pulse Bomb eventually. They have the counter beat on the LA Gladiators, and then they've got Doom Ult, which isn't that impactful. Still, they have the positional advantage. Hanbin has to touch. He uses his own bubble for it. Sparkle is just melted. He's just deleted from the game. Chio beats first to try and save Sparkle. This leaves Astro getting a later beat, and you always want to beat later. He beats when Reiner comes back, so he gets the beat. It's a 5-man beat, and things look great for the Gladiators. It's kind of clean-up crew now. Kill Fielder. Doesn't matter if they flip the points. Just kill the most important targets. And they 100-0 them, and, you know, it looks like they finally come up with an answer to this Fuel comp. If they can kill the Reaper, like aggressively kill the Reaper after he's had his bubble, they can then work down the rest of the team after that. This then takes us to the final point of Ilios, which is Lighthouse. I need to go back a little bit further than this. Spoiled, the LA Gladiators win the first fight. Okay, the Fuel have come out with a different look. Very, very bold from the Fuel here. Alright, Betsy, I will let you out. You're now scratching at the door. There you go. You come in and then you just want to go out again immediately, don't you? You don't know if you're coming or you're going. Anyway, they've come out with a different comp. They, I guess, have decided that maybe the LA Gladiators have figured out the comp a little bit. Or they're not happy running it on this point. Hanbin comes out on D.Va because he can't play the Winston, or at least he's not shown to play the Winston at this level before. So his only real other options is to come out on Sigma or D.Va. And he chooses to come out with the D.Va. Edison picks up the Soldier, very strong hero. Sparkle on the Echo now, not the Genji. And they're running a Echo Mercy. It's, I think, the first time this match we've seen the Mercy. So Sparkle can get easily pocketed, but who's going to help Fielder if they get dived on? Like, this is really greedy as a comp goes. The Gladiators, they stay on their Doom comp with the Genji instead of the Echo. Sparkle. Edison does a Helix jump. He takes control of the Lighthouse. Hanbin comes up with him. Sparkle can play on this rooftop and shoot down, but look at Fielder. He's just completely on his own. He's completely isolated. Up comes Reiner. He's going to try and knock Edison off. I think he's pushed Hanbin off the point. The high ground, and he drops. And Hanbin is just going to play the point. They finally realize that Fielder, or at least Kevster, gets into position. Fielder is completely on his own on this bridge. Hanbin tries to peel for him. Edison's going to probably try and come back and help a little bit. But I think this is going to be his ass. He's being hard dove right now by Kevster, Reiner, Astro. And he dies. What's the problem for the D.Va into this comp? Doomfist does damage that the DM cannot eat. Kevster does damage that the DM can't eat. Astro can, he can melee eventually, but also his boop cannot be eaten. There are 3 heroes on this team that Hanbin cannot eat the damage of. So he was kind of just a passenger there, really. They do have the resurrection for Fielder, though, so Fielder is rezzed. But right now, the other 3, there are no heals for them right now. Hanbin comes back for a Mega. Astro is picked by Edison. That's a huge pick. So now Fuel are actually up in numbers. Hanbin engages onto Shu. At the meantime, Kevster somehow picks up Chio. And Sparkle gets killed. Okay, Shu kills Sparkle. So I presume that Chio can't jump back to someone else at this point. And Chio dies as well to the Genji. And then they pick up Fielder as well, who's probably trying to peel for Chio. And Hanbin jumps off the map. But like, you can see how hard it is to get value into D.Va now. Immediately, the Fuel have recognized this. Chio goes into the Lucio. Like, they have to be able to keep the Fielder alive for longer. Sparkle goes into the Tracer. And Hanbin stays on the D.Va, which is very interesting. So they're forgoing one of their bubbles. One of the nice things about running the D.Va is that, I've mentioned this a few times, part of the reason why Anna kind of struggled a little bit in Overwatch 1, and it wasn't like she was never picked, but D.Va is such a good answer to the Anna. Like, if you eat her nades and you eat her sleeps, you're kind of ruining the hero. And also she has a projectile heal, so you can eat her heals as well. So you can get someone low, D.Va goes in on them, DMs them even though they're low, and Shu cannot heal them. So I think Hanbin here is just trying to eat the nades and stuff from Shu to try and give him less advantages. Reiner kills Chio again immediately. Like, I don't even know. How does he die here? He's rotating to the point with Sparkle. And again, the D.Va just can't keep him up. Reiner can punch him, Kester dashes through him. Astro can boop him. The D.Va cannot answer this. Reiner's on 70% ult charge right now, Hanbin's on 40. And things are looking really brutal for the Fuel right now. They reset their ult charge in the last fight for Valk, for Echo. And they're running a D.Va right now, which doesn't seem to be working. And if they want to swap, you've lost a third of your time, and you're going to lose 44%. But again, they choose to stick with it and then go like, no, we're swapping. Hanbin shows the Winston for the first time. Now, this will catch the Gladiators by surprise, but also probably their eyes light up at this. Hanbin is not known for his Winston, he's an off-tank player. So this is the first time I think at this level that Hanbin has ever come out on the Winston. And again, he's reset his ult charge. Hanbin takes a bunch of damage. He's trying to build up this nano for Fielder. Sparkle again resets his ult charge. He goes to Genji. Hard dives. Nice boot from Astro. Very good. Keeps Shu alive there. Shu's built up the nano. Ans kills Sparkle. And Edison invests the one ult they had right now. They don't wait for the nano visor. He visors first. They're already down Sparkle. Reiner is killed though for it. They get Kevster as well. And they clean up. Very nice from Edison. It's a huge visor, honestly. To win that fight. And Shu invests nano. I didn't even notice this in real time. Who does he nano? So they drop off to here. So Edison's going to run through visor while the team is split up and Reiner is low. So yeah, you can see Edison to the left now. Pulls visor out. Who does Shu? I think he tries to nano Kester, but he's antied. And just dies. So they lose nano. And they lose everyone. You would still say it's not the end of the world for the Gladiators, but that's pretty brutal. They were in a territory where, again, they were probably 2 fights away from winning this map. And you could have come back in with a nano visor. Chio doesn't have the beat. They could have cleaned up there. But now they just have visor. But it's visor blade, so... Again, you could lay these DPS ults, and it's going to be a really rough time for Fielder and Chio to survive. Like, you could blade onto the high ground, presuming they're playing somewhere around there. Just trying to see where... Yeah, so Fielder's on this high ground. You could blade onto the high ground, force Fielder to drop, and then Arms can just come in and visor from where they drop. Again, the Fuel want to go aggressive first. They're on arms. They recognize that he's got the visor. Fielding Nano's Hanbin, and Hanbin is slept. Shu is huge there. Arms pops the visor, but doesn't get that much value off it straight away. The Fuel just run away. He picks someone up at the very end, but loses his life for it. Kester pulls out the blade onto Fielder. Whilst no one's helping Fielder, he dies. Sparkle and Hanbin pick up numero uno kills. Getting Shu is huge. That's the healing gone from the Gladiators. It's just Astro and Reiner up. Astro is trying to fight Sparkle. Reiner gets Chio. Sparkle is just getting knocked around, but he can't stay on the point. But look at Hanbin. He's still there. Look at his health. Hanbin clutches this fight so hard. He picks up, I think between him and Sparkle, they pick up Shu, Arms, Astro, and then Reiner. Like, this is crazy. They focus so hard on trying to kill Sparkle, rather than going on this low HP monkey who, you know, has no supports with him. And they nearly flipped the point, but now they haven't. And Fuel are about to go into some ultimates. Kester goes over to the Tracer to get back quickly. Like, they just kind of beans the fight a little bit there, in my opinion. But again, without the replay view, it's hard to see exactly what happens. I think what occurs during this fight at some point, which I think is what causes a big amount of pressure, is that Arns comes through here with the visor. And I think eventually Hanbin jumps on him to kill him and bubbles this area. And then when people start getting low on the point, Shu cannot shoot them from this angle anymore because of the bubble. So Shu drops as well to try and reposition to shoot them. And I think Hanbin and Sparkle then pick up the Shu who's dropped. I don't know how during all of this. I mean, Kester gets melted during the blade. So again, it's probably a huge outplay from Sparkle. Like, he must hit a bunch of shurikens as they dive in. I can't believe, though, that Astro and Reiner don't pick off Hanbin. I think it must just be, again, they just missed him or something. How? I don't know, but it's just something we'll never see. But he picks up those kills, aggressively goes on arms, kills him. How? How? You have to ask some questions here. How is this allowed to happen? Hanbin literally just dives over them. It doesn't even have his bubble anymore. And he dies. Fielder picks up Reiner. Invests Primal into Shu. Astro beats himself and only himself. This is a little bit of a throw play, because look at the time, it's 75%. Gladiators could still recontest. They could get one more fight. If as soon as Arns had died, they just backed out, like Arns and Reiner died very early. If they just back out there, they get into the fight. Kester can touch the point easily on Tracer. He tries to keep Shu alive, beats, and gets zero advantage for it. Just completely wasted the beat. And now Gladiators don't have an answer for Sparkle's blade. And they're going to be struggling to get back to the point again as a full 5. As I said, Kester can probably initiate it. He's already touching the point, which seems a bit crazy to me. They didn't really realise he was back here. But they do when he touches it, and he's still not got the contest yet to put it into overtime. So he's going to have to touch again. Big 5-man beat from Chio. Astro is dead. Reiner tries to peel for him, but pays the ultimate. Well, eventually pays the ultimate prize Sparkle. Nano's Reiner, but I'd rather be a Nano soldier, especially with visor, than a Nano Doomfist. But it's still very scrappy. But the fact that Shu is not in this fight and Fielder is, means eventually the Fuel are going to win this. They just have more sustain. And they take this map, which arguably the Gladiators should have won. They kind of threw away a huge ult advantage. There are a few misplays from Shu, from Astro, and it just falls apart for them. So this means we have to go to a map 5 now. And all the momentum, all the mental energy is with Fuel, because, you know, they look like they were down and out at 2-0. They almost look like they were out on that map, and they've keep fighting back. And this is just going to steal your mental. So you would have to say the advantage is now with Fuel to take this map. We'll see how the map 5 New Queen Street goes. So as I mentioned, map 5 takes us to the push map unusually, rather than control to decide things. And it takes us to the new map, New Queen Street. Are the Fuel going to stick with their Zarya comp, which it seems like at the moment that the Gladiators are struggling to deal with? Or are they going to, bring out this Winston comp? Because again, it looked like the Gladiators struggled to break through Hanbin's Winston. Let's find out. The 5th and final map takes us to the push map, New Queen Street, as I mentioned. Unusual again, it's not the control map, because theoretically this could tie, so in theory we could go to a 6th map. Spoilers, we don't. It will be decided here. So again, we have no changes. We're still running Hanbin. We're running Funny Astro and the Gladiators. That again suggests we're going to see some sort of dive comp for the Gladiators. The Fuel now has shown multiple different comps with Hanbin in. They've shown he is willing to play Winston, but mainly they have been running this Zarya Reaper comp. That's been their bread and butter. And indeed, it looks like this is what they're going to roll out on. Edison is showing the Reaper, Sparkle is showing the Genji, Hanbin the Zarya, Field of the Ana, and Chio the Lucio. Gladiators for the last few maps have been seeming to show this Doom comp. They seem to prefer it on the control and push points. Kevster again is on the Echo. Again, another hero that the Fuel are going to struggle to interact with. Arns on the Soldier, Shu, Ana, and Astro Lucio. Now, most pro teams on New Queen Street seem to take up this fountain area first. They take this high ground, there's some nice cover from the fountain. The Gladiators see the Fuel's comp and immediately they back up a little bit. They give them some space. Because they do not want to fight a closed up, coordinated fight. Edison TPs into the shop here, and he's closed this gap already. And the Gladiators are on the retreat a little bit. They come out this side instead. They go back to the low ground. Nice little rotation. But the Fuel spot it. Arns does pick up Edison. They pick up the other DPS of Sparkle. Hanbin does get Arns, but it's not going to matter. This is huge, because again, winning the first map on push is really important. And look at this focusing being just exploding people. Also, the pick that Fuel got, Arms, is not the greatest pick for them, because Arms is going to be back to the fight very quickly. Astro has come back to give him speed boost, the jog champ is jogging, and he's back before they are. So they'll get another fight as 5 here. Now, you've seen a lot of teams as well. Other teams that have played this Reaper comp have really set out to hold this room here. There's a Mega inside of here. And you can flank all the way around and up to this high ground on the... Is it like the metro area? I don't really know what to call this thing still yet. And then you can set a cross angle from this little shop window onto the enemy team. So the Gladiators are still pushing it right now. This isn't quite like Colosseum where they would leave the robot. They seem willing to push the robot further down here. I guess because they don't have a great defensible position. Gladiators in the background are still rotating around here. I think they expect a fight in this small space. Kevster can get some value from fighting in a small space. The sticky bombs, they can hit multiple people. And can build up a lot of ult charge. Maybe gets a pick off. Right now he's sticking on the high ground. As I said, this connects to the small room. And Sparkle flanks around and kills Shu in the back line. I don't even know, like, how this goes down. I mean, I can imagine. So Sparkle goes off Genji, he went onto Tracer. Edison's gone off the Reaper onto Soldier. So again, this is a very different look of the Zarya bubble comp. They're going to be probably bubbling Sparkle now. Like, Sparkle kills Shu when he's next to Astro and Arms. Like, you can just see him being melted down. Astro, you can see wall riding next to him. Arms is next to him. And he just falls. Edison must have put a bit of damage in. Maybe some right clicks from Hanbin as well. But this is, honestly, it's just fight loss for the Gladiators. You cannot fight without your Ana getting picked early. And they just cede the position. They give the Fuel the robot. But at least it didn't give them a lot of ult charge. Sparkle gained quite a lot, but, you know, it's Tracer. Somehow Kester picks Sparkle back with his stickies. He must meet him on the flank and just win the 1v1. But pays for it with his life. In fact, he doesn't even meet him on the flank. He's just playing out in the open. I don't know if it's just a lucky stick or whatever. Astro beats. He gets such an early beat compared to Chio. Like, he was 40% ahead. Fielder Nano's handbin, so again, it's a decent counter to the Nano. But Reiner still dies. Astro dies. Like, handbin just... He didn't care about the beat. He just pushed mouse 1 and W and walked into the team. He had a bubble. He had Nano, so less damage he was taking, like 50% damage reduction. And it just doesn't look like Reiner can really deal with this. Like, he's having such a tough time, like, matching up with handbin. And now the Fuel have pushed further, and the LA Gladiators are taking around this first corner. Sparkle's looking for Shu again. Astro is looking for Sparkle. Reiner is trying to meet up with Hanbin, like trying to stop the bot from pushing. He slams in, immediately grabbed by Hanbin. Hanbin is fully aware right now that if they kill, like, Reiner, who else is going to go to the point? No one in this team really wants to go to the point, other than Reiner. The Nano arms as well as a counter into this, so Shu's nanoed arms, so it's a lot of damage. Kester for life copies Hanbin. If he'd got his bubble off to save Reiner, it could have been huge. It would have been worth it. Right now, it's not necessarily worth it, and they're just investing ultimates. This is now Visor at the end of the Nano. He gets a double kill, but the LA Gladiators, they've invested 3 ultimates into this fight. Whereas Fuel have invested... Oh, actually, they've invested 3 as well. Not too bad. Edison had Visored at some point. But it's still really messy. They're not cleanly winning this fight. So they're probably not going to get any more distance, but they'll push it back to where it was before. But this is almost back to a neutrality. Pulse Bomb is big. No, you don't, you stupid advert. I like the fact I was given the option, by the way, of using YouTube Prime, or Premium, whatever it's called, from my roommate. Completely forgot, I just used mine. One moment. And we're back in the room. Kester gets off the Echo, he's gone into the Tracer now, he doesn't really fancy running Echo into Soldier. As I said, they seem happy to run Echo into Reaper Genji, but as soon as the Soldier comes out there, Kester just can't. Edison's putting up too much pressure. It's also, I imagine, pretty hard to survive on this map with the Echo. There's not a lot of, like, corners you can necessarily play around. Like, it's pretty open for the most part, especially if you flank. Like, sure, you can go into some of the windows in here, you might be able to go into the side of this, like, I don't know, metro type area. But if Edison just like comes around the flank one time and you don't know he's there, that's probably alright. You're not going to get back to cover fast enough. Like huge sight lines up these maps. Again, Reiner is really far forward at the moment. He's been pushing the bot because the Gladiators, they don't want to be on the point right now. They don't want to be near this Zarya. Reiner's the only person that can stay near the Zarya right now. You have the support inside the cart. You've got arms inside this cart as well. They're looking for Sparkle. And they're taking up this advantageous high ground. The Fuel are going to come and fight inside of here, where Kester is at the moment, and try and take some of this high ground. So, Gladiators have moved forward a little bit right now. Well, it's a lot of, you know, poking and prodding. Sparkle, I think, misses his Pulse Bomb there. And he's still fighting on this high ground, fighting over the high ground. Astro kills Edison. That's a huge pick-off. That's a lot of the damage gone. Look how low Fielder is right now. He gets a bubble. Reiner. Who does he try and slam here? He doesn't really go defensive on it. He tries to go on Hanbin, which is a really weird choice. Fielder right now is 20 HP. He's still in the bubble right now. I don't know if it's just the Doom ult ended. I can't really remember the time frame for when, like, you know, you stay in the slam animation. But it's kind of surprising he doesn't try to kill Fielder or go all the way back to his team. He just drops straight from the Zarya, gets bubbled. He eventually kills Chio. Funny Astro kills Anna. So it works out in the end. And now the Gladiators look like they're going to be able to push further forwards. There's a huge pick-off in here, though. I forgot about this. I wrote this down at the time when I took some notes on the game. This is the biggest pick, arguably, of the series in the end. If you lose your Anna, so Hanbin, in the fight that is lost, kills Shu before perishing, it's huge. It's kind of a misplay, honestly, from Astro again here. And I do love, like, Funny Astro. I rave over him. I think he's such a good Lucio player. But, I mean, I guess it's not even just Astro, but it's the whole of the LA Gladiators. To allow Shu to die, cleaning up the fight, is just so big. Because right now, the spawn for the Gladiators is all the way back, like... I mean, it's all the way back where it was before. They haven't got this checkpoint yet. They haven't got the forward spawn. So Astro is going to have to go all the way back, ferry them all the way back again. By which point, the fuel will have come back to the robot, and Gladiators will have had to give up the position. Just because Hanbin gets this pick here, it's actually huge again from Hanbin. Like, he plays so well in this game. Irrespective, though, the Gladiators take the lead. So they'll be happy with that, but it was a bit of a flub from them. If Shu is still up, they get way more progress on this, potentially. Or at least they get a good chance to have another fight here and push further. Instead, as you can see, they try to get it to this checkpoint, which they do. They just get it to the checkpoint, and they're going to just back off immediately. Kevster runs away. Ryan is out as well. And they're just running. Because the supports are not with them right now. Okay, we're just over halfway through this push map, and so far, so good, I guess, for the Gladiators. They have a decent ult bank as well now. The onus is no longer on them to win the fights to push the cart more with ults. They can use the ults when they need to, at the very end. Like, the Fuel have to use ults to push it back to where they were before. And when it gets back to there, the Gladiators could invest more ults to push it back again. But again, the Fuel, like this entire second half of the game, they're going to go aggressive. They fight inside this little shuttle. Fuel to get stuck. Huge pick from Kevster. Right now, you're looking at this and going like, okay, Gladiators win this fight. The Fuel want nothing to do with it anymore. But, again, they lose someone late. It's not a huge matter, really, for here. Arn's dying. It's bad, they're not going to have to push as far anymore, but they still got the lead already, so it's not too bad. They can also hold position a little bit without the soldier. Again, Hanbin has a Grav right now, they have Nano as well, so you have to be very careful. Probably the dream scenario right now is that Ryan just gets solo Graved. So he's trying to play in Hanbin's face a little bit. But again, they don't want to fight nearby. They give up position on the robot. Because Arns is not back yet. They come back in. Nano Edison. Reiner is going to die here. Yep, he dies. Doesn't even get a chance to power block. So Fuel use Nano Visor. Win a fight. Again, very bold play here. It doesn't really matter in the whole scheme of things. Arns gets a pick back off. So this is currently, at one point, this is 4v4. Arns killed Edison, who goes too aggressive here. It's not even going too aggressive. It's just Arns flanks back round and they don't realise it. Arns then gets dove by Sparkle. And to try and save Arns, Astro beats. And Shu had nanoed Arns just to get the kill. So they used three ultimates. Arns is visored as well. So they used 3 ultimates into a losing fight. Chio then counters this with his own beat. So it's not the end of the world. They use 3 ultimates each team, but the Fuel are going to win this fight. Again, they could have arguably saved their ults and been fine. It's kind of strange that they fight so aggressively here. Chio picks off Shu. There was a big anti in all of this as well from Fielder hitting both Shu and Astro as the beat wore off. And again, I think this was a bit of a misplay on ultimates. They didn't need to do that. Like, it was fine. They didn't have to fight here, really. As soon as Edison had Visored and Fielder had nanoed him already, You've got 2 of the big ults out. You had some distance to play with. You could have come back and had those 3 ultimates yourself. And now they have no answer to the Blade. They have no answer to the Grav either, because they've used their beat. And this is going to be a tough fight for the Gladiators. They just have Doom Ult and Pulse Bomb. Kevster has to Pulse Bomb Fielder again. It's basically the only way they're going to win this. So Kevster touches the bot. Again, now this is a nice swap for Kevster. I should have mentioned this at the time. There's now 2 people who want to, who can touch the bot to hold him up. Reiner can touch it and Kevster can touch it and just blink off again. So that's kind of nice for Reiner. He's antied immediately. He Doom Ults. And they go with the Blade. There's no necessarily answer to this anymore. Edison kills Kevster. Sparkle doesn't get anything off the Blade itself, but he just puts in some damage. Nice focus from the Gladiators as a response to this. They do a huge chunk of damage with like Shu and Arns. But Arns pays for his life. Hanbin, look at him. He's just walked through the team. Astro's in the background. Reiner's in the background. He's walked through to kill Arns. And I presume Shu is back here. Like, he's fully split the team off. Yep. He's going to kill Shu. And it's fallen apart completely. They've still not used the Graviton. They won the fight using just Blade. And Reiner used Doom Ult, Kevster used Pulse Bomb. This is now leveling the distance. Oh, no, don't level the distance, sorry. I lied. They get the first checkpoint. But they don't have to push far to get the lead. And they still have an ult advantage right now. I didn't notice. Reiner has now gone over to the Winston. This lets him... Well, this lets him isolate Fielder off from the rest of the team. And Anti again from Shu goes into Hanbin, but he's probably the least valuable target to Anti in the Dallas Fuel comp right now. Because he can just bubble himself at some point and purge it off. Admittedly, he could bubble another player and purge it off as well. Like, it's really hard to get a good Anti engage for the Winston comp. But Reiner can now sit around the point. He can drop a bubble if he wants. They force them back a little bit. Back round the corner again. Reiner dives back. Not entirely sure why Reiner goes all the way back here. I don't know if someone's engaging on their team. Like, it seems really weird that he just gives up this corner. Like, he's not low. He just jumps back. I can only presume someone's on the flank, but Sparkle's here. Edison's back here. Hanbin's at the front. I presume there's support. Like, I can see Anna's gun on the very right side of the screen. And Shio must be close by. Like, they just give up this space again. And, like, Jeff is pushing away again. They nano Genji gets a bubble. Immediately onto Arms. They recognize he has the visor. He's numero uno priority to kill. And they kill him. Huge play from Fielder. Fielder comes alive the second half of the map. Second half of the match, sorry. Sparkle just needs to get out with his life. He deflects a sleep on Shu and tries to kill him. Doesn't quite. But during all of this, because Sparkle is taking the attention of Shu, Astro, and Arms, Reiner drops. He can't hold the point anymore. He hasn't got Primal. Hanbin still has Grav. He's still not used it. And the Fuel go a heading distance. And there's 23 seconds left. And Beat is about to come up for Fuel. They lose Astro late. He's about to get his beat as well. This could be a real slugger blocker fight. We're close to Nano, Beat, Visor on one side, Pulse Bomb as well. On the other side we have Beat, we have Graviton Surge. We're about to get Visor. But it's going to have to be one run back from the Gladiators. Reiner touches the Graviton Surge, which he's been waiting for. So long for. Shu gets his Nano off, but Astro doesn't quite have his beat yet. The Nano Arms for the Nano Visor. He's in the Graviton Search. He can't push forwards with this. And the Fuel cleanup. They get no value off that. Chio beats to save his team. And now Edison clean up with a Visor. And we get the reverse sweep. I think Fuel played the second half very well. Hanbin does incredible work on the tank. He puts so much pressure on Reiner. Just look at Astro's expression right now. I think he knows that they kind of threw that away. They had all the advantages they need. They just pushed some fights I don't think they should have done. Like, they could have held their ultimates. Kind of threw ultimates into fights that they were unlikely to win. Or don't even need to win, I suppose. and they come out the wrong end of a 3-2. Irrespective, though, I think these two teams at the end of the season will be there or thereabouts for definitely the championship on the Atlantic Division, and I think there'll be teams going towards the grand finals. So, congratulations to the Dallas Fuel for winning this game. Bringing things back as well from their rough opening weekend. They're now, I think, 2-1 after this. And the Gladiators are 2-1 as well, question mark. You know what, we'll look at the standings in a moment. So unlike the first episode, I've decided to just quickly go over the schedule from the last weekend, some of the matches that were great. So apologies if these are spoilers. When I have warned you, you're going to get spoilers in this video. I was also going to make a nice graphic, but I decided just to use the L website instead, because their graphic is very nice. Anyway, of the matches over the weekend, Florida Mayhem routed the Vancouver Titans. If you want to know why my bronze boy soldier was doing, is this a speed run? Watch that game. It was a complete blowout, and I'm really worried for the Vancouver Titans. They just seem all over the place. They just look like they're not confident on who their best team is right now, what the best way to play. They don't like they necessarily have the pieces that fit the puzzle. So I think it's going to be a really rough season for the Titans. I'm struggling to see where the next victory comes from. And they have some rough games coming up in the next coming weeks. The Shock overcame the Outlaws and the Excelsior, both 3-1 scores. And they're looking pretty right now. Pretty right now. I would probably say they have the best DPS pairing that I've seen so far in the Atlantic region. The Justice continued to beat down all the naysayers, including me. I thought they were going to struggle still with their team, even though they had all these big names. But it's always been like this for the Washington Justice. They seem to have these big name players and then they just kind of flop. But they 3-0 the Atlanta Reign, who honestly a lot of people had, again, very high up on their standings. Spitfire surprised the Uprising. Everyone had Spitfire as the worst team going into this year, I think. And they've, pulled off some victories and they look decent. They are playing a rush style, and hopefully in a coming week we will look at one of the Spitfire videos because they play the game very differently from the other teams. The Fuel we just went through their 3-2 victory, so commiserations to the Gladiators, well done to the Fuel. The Excelsior 3-1 the Titans, which honestly wasn't that impressive. This was a bit of a toilet bowler of a game. Excelsior still look a little bit I'm not sure of their support line, the two flex supports of it's Gangnam Jim and who's the other support? I've forgotten now. Hang on a minute. Let me get my notes. Who is your other support, NYXL? It's the very, very good player. His name has completely escaped me. Where are my notes, please? It's Myungbong. There we go. So it's Myungbong and Gangnam Jim, both flex supports. Gangnam Jim's been playing the Lucio. I've not been hugely impressed by his Lucio so far. They've been mixing it up with Kel, and he's played mainly the Winston, but he's also, thrown out the Zarya. Yaki on Tracer looks great, and I think Flores Soldiers looked a bit questionable. But there was some nice, it's kind of strange. The 3-1 victory, I thought they looked all over the place. It was just a mess of a game. But their 3-1 defeat to the Shock, they looked considerably better. A lot more organised, a lot more good plays from the team. So I think the New York XL are not going to do great this season, but I don't think they're going to be awful. I think they're going to be like a middle-of-the-pack team. Mayhem also went 3-2 down to the Houston Outlaws. Both these teams are going to just have crazy seasons, I can already tell. They're just going to play wild comps. They've still not put any other tank out, Houston Outlaws, other than Dante on the Doomfist. And I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen when a team is going to play the Outlaws and just hard counter the Doomfist. We've seen a few teams, I think the Florida play it eventually, they break out the Sombra, and it makes Dante play so much more scared. And I think some teams are going to, they're going to use that over the Outlaws, and I'll be intrigued to see what Piggy can really do on something that isn't Sigma. Let's see if they try to play a Winston comp, or are they going to also have to play this Zarya-based comp? And then finally, the Toronto Defiant 3-0 the Eternal. And honestly, Toronto Defiant, kind of a dark horse this season. They look fairly strong. Unlucky to lose to the Justice in the opening week. Again, I thought they looked very, very good for portions of that map, but kind of just fell apart at the end. I've been really impressed with Chorong's Lucio, and News on Tank has looked fantastic as well. And Twilight Anna, we already know it was great, and it continues to look fantastic. So it's the Atlantic standings. We have the Shock. They're 4-0 at the moment, the only team that hasn't lost a map yet. And by map, I mean lost a game. They have lost 2 maps. They're 12-2 at the moment, and they look good right now for winning the league for this kickoff Clash qualifier. And they look good for just the regular season. Gladiators now fall to 2-1, and the Fuel rise to 2-1. Look at all these teams at 2-1. Toronto 2-1, London at 2-1, Reign at 2-1, Justice at 2-1. Then we have the 2-2s, the Florida Mayhem and the Dallas Outlaws. Uprising 1-2, XL are 1-3. And then the teams that, you know, they might be propping up the table. Paris was 0-3. I wasn't hugely impressed with Paris either. Glister looks kind of insane, but I'm not hugely sold on the rest of the comp. They've had a difficult week as well, that Naga left the team under kind of mysterious circumstances, so Wub has just joined the team. But Wub looked okay. And then finally the Vancouver Titans, and I think the less we say, the better to the Titans. As we go into next weekend, the Eastern teams are also going to go in, the APAC teams, and I'm really intrigued to see how the APAC teams fare with 5v5, because often the APAC teams have ran slightly different metas to the Atlantic team, so I'm just intrigued to see if anyone else will pull out a different comp, maybe a Wrecking Ball based comp. I can only hope. And this leads us to the team of the week, my opinion of who were the best players in week 2 in the Overwatch League. Again, my team of the week features 3 players from the same team. I've already mentioned this in the standings, but Proper and Kilo have looked insane on DPS, and I had to give it to them. They dominated the teams over the weekend. Also, on the San Francisco Shock, I think Finn was the best flex support. He set up so many plays with great bionades. He continuously hits sleeps as well to disrupt enemy teams, and just didn't seem like, you know, he was easy to kill. He just survived so long into fights. Then, Handman from the Dallas Fuel of the games we just went through, I thought in the second half of this map, he was just perfect. He showed different comps. He showed a bit of Winston and looked pretty good on it. Kind of clutched map 4 on the Winston. He played a bit of Diva, but that didn't really go great for him, but he was okay. And then his Zarya bubbles just looked perfect. Always setting up his Reaper. He always seemed to have a bubble as well for like his Ana if they got naded or something. He was just a perfect tank. And then finally, from the Toronto Defiant, Chorong. On Luso, he made some incredible plays. He had a really cool play where I think someone tried to drop into the stairway on Eichenwalder, and he booped them back up to save his team from, you know, the soldier getting on top of them. And then as he booped him up, he jumped up and beated his entire team around him on a ledge. So he got a quicker beat off. It was a wonderful play. Almost my play of the week. But unfortunately, it wasn't the play of the week. Because my play of the week is this play by Iris in the match with Houston Outlaws and Florida Mayhem. I didn't cover this one again because the Florida Mayhem we covered in the first week, but it was another 3-2 game, a very close match, and it could have all been different but for this play from Iris. You may have been spoiled if you saw this on the tab, or if you watched the game, but this was fantastic. This is the final fight on the push map of Colosseo. We're close to the Houston Outlaws spawn, they're in the lead at the moment, and Checkmate has EMP, Hydron has Visor, the close to the beat, and the close to the Nano. And look at the Outlaws ults. They barely have anything. It looks certain that Florida are going to win this. And Iris makes the outplay, a huge outplay here. Checkmate goes out, he hacks. In fact, let's slow this one down just to appreciate it even more. He hacks Lastro thinking Lastro has the beat, and this is the only counter to the Visor. So he tries to get an early hack off on Lastro, then goes for the EMP, and Iris sleeps him before he can get the EMP off. It's huge. Hydron pops the Visor, but it's not enough. They haven't got the setup anymore. Pelican picks up Checkmate, who was asleep on the floor, and the Outlaws come out victorious from this position. It's such a huge outplay from Iris to sleep, you know. The Sombra just as they come out of invisibility. And this won the Outlaws this map, and they go on to win 3-2. So for that reason, Iris wins my play of the week. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like and subscribe? Everything helps me out. And I'll see you next week for episode 3. Goodbye.